it is 5:37. We're running late. All right. This special meeting work session of the Board of Directors will now come to order. And we will turn this part of the session over to Mr. Ryan Hess with Studer Education.
Perfect. And Mr. Hess, I will let you kind of introduce yourself and go into that just for the interest of time. And so it is all you, and I do apologize. If any sound or anything you cannot hear, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to kind of relay that to you. So I do apologize. I didn't get a good solution today, so it's all you, sir.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Superintendent Hawkins. Thank you, Board Chair and Vice Chair and members of the board. Really excited to be able to share some information with you today. And I know that time is tight, and I'm committed to keeping us on time as well. So I will trim a little bit in that way to make sure that we don't get out late. And at the same time, I'll create some pauses throughout the presentation and overview in case there's any questions or you'd like for me to go back to anything. I'm Ryan Hess. I've been with our organization for about 10 years. Have always worked in public education previously or in service to now. And I was originally going to just go around the table with introductions today, but in the interest of time, it sounds like it might be better to kind of hold off on that. Though if you have questions at any point, please jump in. I'll create some pauses as well, as I want to get to know you and be responsive to you as we go the route today. So Superintendent Hawkins and I have had some great conversations over time, and I've had the great pleasure of meeting a couple of the board members, board chair and vice chair. Thank you again for that time last week, and also with the leadership team. And through those learnings, I'm just sharing some priorities at a very high level of summary that I've heard so far. If anything else is top of mind for you, I'll kind of pause after this list and would love to hear any additional feedback. But some of the priorities in this that I've heard are it's important to open up communication and continue to build trust with and among the board and the community and aligning to a shared vision and a set of priorities and goals for the future together. I've heard that you all have made great progress in stabilizing the budget and enrollment in your district, which is tremendous. So congratulations on your work and focus on that. I know that you're wanting to ensure that you're meeting the needs of all students, but your migrant students in particular, and the broader Hispanic community, which predominantly is who you all serve. So I want to be sure that you're providing an excellent education and future life opportunities for those students. That you're at the point of readiness to build some systems and processes set from the ground up. And this is Superintendent Hawkins talking about what he wants to take with this team. And really developing and supporting leaders is a key part of that success. And to get started, that it's going to be important to proactively get the community involved and engaged in envisioning a collective future and developing a strategic plan to guide that work. So that's a little bit of what I've heard in terms of some very broad, high-level priorities. And I'll pause there to see, does that resonate with anyone? Is there anything else anyone would add just from my own learning today?
Do you have a Spanish-speaking consultant on your staff?
She asked if you have a Spanish-speaking consultant on the staff.
Oh, we do. We do have members of our team who speak Spanish. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good.
So kind of connecting to core purpose around the work, related to those areas that are most important. One of the things that we know about education is that, teachers came to the profession because they want to make a deep difference in the lives of others. Unfortunately, it's not a profession that we can come into expecting to make lots and lots of money and millions of dollars. So that's unfortunate because it's important and they certainly deserve everything. And at the same time, we know that people came to it because they have a great heart for the work and a deep sense of passion to make impact for students. So as we're engaging with this work, we want to connect with people closest to the work, really understand their sense of purpose, make sure that the work in NISA that they're engaged in is worthwhile and that everybody has those opportunities to make a difference. And that one of the things that we've learned is that high-performing teachers and faculty and staff really want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves and really want to be a part of being able to share their ideas and their vision. And so what we're proposing as a first step in the process together is a collective community-engaged visioning and strategic planning process where we'll really own the lift of that. We want you as a board to be like a customer of it. You know, your ideas and your experiences and how you share the constituent and community needs is really important. And so rather than taxing or taking a lot of your time, like you won't have to carry that process on your back. It'll be us, you know, owning that. Though we'll make sure to connect with you to really understand your expertise and your priorities and what you see in the community, and also be very broad in providing opportunities for everybody in the community who wants to contribute and share their perspective in that same kind of way as well as we're developing that path forward. And so there's a few components of the approach that in working with Superintendent Hawkins and team, some members of the board to kind of validate. And the other thing I would say, just to give brief background, is we work with great leaders and boards across the country and in Oregon in these ways that I'm describing now, always tailored and customized with you and your district. We currently work with 180 plus school districts across the country in this approach. And you can see who in Oregon here that we're working with very specifically across the state. And all of these, and what I'll describe today is that district-wide organizational excellence and continuous improvement approach to really advance the work in the district and outcomes for students to that next level. So just very briefly at a high level, a few key components that are a part of what we're proposing. One is this community-engaged visioning and strategic planning process to really level set and to get people engaged in that collective planning together. And then with the leadership team in particular, they are, as you know, a great team. They're excited, they're ready to move important work forward in the district. And so then it's how do we go from this multi-year vision of success to what does it look like planning into a new school year? You know, kind of that plan on a page concept. How do we go from multi-year to annual, to quarterly, to monthly, to really achieving what's most significant? So part of this work also is just a cadence of annual goal setting with you, the leadership team, making sure that as we look at the big picture strategic plan, then annualizing that into a year, what's most important for the here and now as we're focusing on that. And then implementation cycles and processes with the leadership team as they're moving that work forward. And then lastly, what I would call out is a consistent focus on people and culture as a cornerstone to what's most important in this and to you all. So wanting to be a destination district with destination schools with the idea that to the extent that people have choice in, as a student, where I go for an education, as a parent, where I send my child, knowing they're going to get a high quality education, as a teacher of different places I could teach or an employer where I could work, that NISA is people's top choice, and that we're creating that reputation and that environment that everybody feels welcome and everybody's having their needs met in those ways. So in strategic planning, great saying, you know, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. You all probably know that even better than me with your experiences professionally, that having that plan and direction is really important for anybody, but especially when you're leading what's the biggest organization in your city. Big, complex in that way, so where we're collectively going and having that plan so we're not all going in different directions or feeling like we're not pushing or rowing in that same way. With the strategic planning part, setting that common direction, aligning to a few key priority areas that we can then goal set, action plan, implement around collectively and individually. An inclusive process where everybody in the community has the opportunity to understand, take and be part of. And then, you know, at a very high level, some components that are often part of high quality strategic plans, that vision of success over time, mission of our core purpose of why we're here and service to others. Often a set of core values or beliefs that sometimes you can overlook and you don't have to do that. we found it's really powerful when people start talking about what are those core values and beliefs of how we want to live, work, serve with one another, and this in our community. And so we can develop that, begin to define that, and be really purposeful about our culture as we come back to that over time. Small number of priority areas, and then as we're working in that implementation framework, we'll get even more detailed with, and that goal setting and implementation with over time. I've got some example strategic plans, several from Oregon that I'll just show very briefly so you can get a sense. This is the North Clackamas School District. They identified 4 priority areas in their visioning and planning process that they call strategic points: student experience and success, people and culture, resources and service, as they're aligning like their budget to those priorities over time, family and community collaboration are what they identified. Another district called it out as our students, team, classrooms, and community. The Estacada School District, who we started working with about 4 years ago, that's gotten some pretty significant state and national prominence around the work. As that Superintendent Ryan Carpenter openly shares and would share with you all, and Superintendent Hawkins, I know with you too, that when we started working with them, they were not bluntly, on kind of a good to great journey. They were not well respected in their community. Their graduation rate was in the low 60s. It was a long way from where they knew and wanted it to be. Now they're in the 90s. And they knew they had a lot of work to do. So they weren't an already excellent high-performing school district when we started working together. The work that they have done over time has caused so many outcomes to move and increase during a time of COVID. And also, as you know better than me likely, we're kind of ground zero for one of those wildfires in the state during those COVID times as well. So they saw lots of dramatic challenges, though they also had increasing student achievement during this time, increasing enrollment and graduations during this time, community and family and teacher engagement and support. And so because of that, for the 2 years in a row now, the superintendent has opened up their school district for a couple of days where they've had school and district leaders, board members, and others from across the country, literally coast to coast, from California to North Carolina and in between. I was with them a few weeks ago when they had it. About 250 different leaders who came for 2 days to really hear and understand what they have done. You see some artifacts from that process here in terms of some elements of their strategic plan and that scorecard or that implementation framework, which I'll just briefly allude to. So at the conclusion of the strategic planning process, that's really where the rubber meets the road. And that's really where superintendent leadership team are kind of rolling up sleeves and saying, all right, we've got this great plan, we've made these commitments, and now how do we move forward in achieving results? And that's where our continued work in partnership, because we're rolling up our sleeves in that same way, of that same commitment is really high and significant, from our lens as well. So this kind of annual plan on a page, if you'll think about it in this way, so they have great, broad, multi-year visionary strategic plan, and then, okay, what does success look like? A small number of key measurable annual goals connected to, in this district, the 4 priorities that they identified. Yours will look different. What your community surfaces will be different than this, and that scorecard process will be aligned to you and what you identify. Small number of lead measures that help us track how we're doing along the way, and all of this to inform like that Pareto principle or that 20-80 rule. Lots going on in the district and organization, but what are the 20% of strategies and actions we're going to be highly committed to? Because we think if we do those deeply and well, we'll get 80% of our results. So this is one of the processes with the leadership team that we put in place, and then work in an implementation cadence throughout the year to execute on that, to achieve those bottom line results, and then report out to you as a board, how we're doing along the way and getting your input along the way. I'll briefly round this out and then open up for, of course, any questions, and if you had some slides or visuals you want me to go back to at that time, I'll do that as well. This people and culture piece is really important. we often say like people first. And so we can have a great strategic plan, great strategies in place, but if we don't have that culture and people aren't with us, we won't be able to move the most important work forward. So there are a few things that I've hit on and kind of in bold here: the strategic plan, the scorecard, the implementation process. Around that strategy implementation piece, we're equally focused on the culture, trust, communication, and engagement components, and you see some of those strategies highlighted in blue. The point ultimately being that the other work, so to speak, that we will do with leadership and team is really around the culture and people element. So what are those high-performing leadership practices that we can put in place that help to advance the way people feel about the organization and their commitment and connectedness and moving it to the next level? I'll give one brief example here with some data connected to it. This is an organization where they hadn't put anything new in place, and they had a survey. They provided one particular item on that survey that's sometimes known as like a promoter score or a net promoter score, which just means what % of the people who interact with us would promote us or say, this is a great place to work, or in this organization's example, that they're a great place to work. You might have taken a survey like this from businesses that you've connected with over time. Typically any time that a business says, hey, will you stay on the line or will you complete a one-question survey, that survey is almost always going to be some version of, based on your experiences with us today, how likely are you to recommend Home Depot is a great place to shop, and get your home improvement needs met, or fill in the blank. So this is an organization where they ask their employees that question: how likely are you to recommend this as a good place to work? About half would. About half said, yep. So anonymous survey. So they put one practice in place as a leadership team called rounding. And that's what we teach and coach and provide tools and resources and support around that and other things. But they just did one thing. And when they implemented that practice with employees in the organization on just a quarterly basis, that willingness to recommend went from 50 to 80%. When they do it monthly to almost 90%, we recommend kind of that quarterly cadence. So all to say, it's about people being heard, having that opportunity, leaders going first, and really using that input for continuous improvement to continue to advance the system. Not one more thing or not one initiative, but all of the things that the leadership team is already focused on and prioritizing, and us being a partner in bringing tools and resources to build the integration and within all of that within an implementation framework. So I'll stop there. Would love to have any questions that you have, be responsive to anything that's top of mind for you all.
You refer to a multi-year plan. So, I'm curious, what are we looking at? Or what are you looking at? Initial year of strategizing, followed by another year of implementation?
What we're actually proposing is roughly the first 6 months or so. And actually, we will do multiple things kind of concurrently. So, like we were speaking with Superintendent Hawkins on this, we know that even as you're planning into the future, you're in the middle of a year that's really important, or you will be. You'll be starting a new year that's really important. So, planning into the new year, not having a new strategic plan in place, but that's okay. Working with the team and connections with others on what are those things that are most important this year, and beginning to pilot that implementation process out. While in the first half of the year, we would be doing that strategic planning process with the goal really to have it done with some runway in advance of next year. So as you all are in February, March, beginning to budget, beginning to plan for next year, and the superintendent team are beginning to plan in that way, that you can build those plans connected to what you and the community have implemented. And so we would begin that implementation kind of in an integrated way along the way. And then next school year would be full official year of implementation of the new strategic plan.
I can see that this can be continuing education for our administrators What will it do for the board?
For the board, one of the things that we found is really providing that opportunity where we're elevating the voice of your voice, but also your constituents and stakeholder voice, to help everybody be, together and informed on the same page of what's most important in that way. We can facilitate like annual goal setting sessions as desired with you, the superintendent leadership team, and board. So our connections, you'll largely define, what those connections would be, helpful with you and the board. At the end of the day, I know you want to be a board that's presiding over a continuously improving school district that's providing great outcomes for students, and that's the ultimate return on investment. That's ultimately, what we're all doing together is identifying what's most important to achieve, setting that line in the sand and saying, here's where we are in making progress and where we're going next to achieve those outcomes.
I noticed that on the list of districts that you have helped or are in, LeGrand is one of them. Woodburn is another. How long have you been in those districts?
Superintendent Mendoza and his team, we are going in our second year with them. So we've completed first full year there in LeGrand.
Okay, what about Woodburn?
Woodburn, we aren't actually, I'm not sure where that name is. I apologize, we're not working with that district. We're working with about 20 districts in Oregon, but not Woodburn.
Oh, I thought that was on that list. So, but you have worked with Estacada and North Clackamas?
Yes, ma'am. We're going into, I think, our 5th year with Estacada. It might be a little bit longer. Maybe 5.5 because we started mid-year with them, actually. And North Clackamas, 3 or so. We're either just finished our 3rd year or we're going into our 4th year. We're in that 3-4 year time frame with North Clackamas.
Now the bottom line, what does this cost?
We have, in the first year, that first phase, what we proposed is a little under $80,000 a year, which is comprehensive to the planning process, to the implementation approach, all of those aspects, the scorecard. And I talked about the scorecard at the district level, though it's also the cascading of that scorecard at the school and department levels, which is really significant. Often from a board lens, and it makes sense, we're thinking about those district outcomes. To achieve those, we're also looking at that school and department level over time with that action planning and implementation process. So comprehensive to all of those, and also to continual community engagement and feedback processes in the first year and each year.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Hess?
I apologize. Would you repeat that last question?
Asked if there's any more questions for Mr. Hess. Sorry. Right on time, sir. Punctual. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. If more questions come up, Superintendent Hawkins, I know we'll have a later connection, and I'll be sure to be responsive in that way.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your time. Have a good day.
You too. Have a great evening. Thank you, everyone.
Pardon us for skipping out of our usual. We did not accept the agenda. I apologize for that. So are there any amendments or additions to the agenda that we have in front of us? Hearing none, we will now move on. We under business, we did that first session was the strategic planning. This is what the superintendent and the administration are looking at. I was trying to get it to be a little more of board education in addition to continuing ed for the administration. It is spending. It is spending. So we don't have a lot of time here. Ryan, can you fill us in on?
Yeah, and so, and as you kind of see, there's the 9 principles of it, but I've been working on this process kind of all year, how we're going to formalize our strategic planning, and some feedback that I've gotten from the board is we're not connected to all of our community, and we need a formalized way to go out and hear them, and bring that back to the board, and what are our priorities, and so, so part of the strategic planning is a way for us to formally go do that, and Ryan Hess and I have been talking, he said we don't need electronic surveys. We need people here, we need people down at M&W, we need people, and so a big part of it is traveling, getting here, and so the process is like August, they're going to really study our district, get to know us, then they're going to be here, talking to the community, going out in the community, not saying, hey, everybody hopefully show up here, and so, so it is a really mindful way to go out and get the information we need, build all of that, bring it to the board, and then as a board and leadership team, is we start looking at it, hey, this is what the community said its priorities are. Here's where the data kind of meets that, and then take that, come up with a plan, bring it back to the community and say, is this what you guys were talking about? Is this, I mean, are these your priorities as a community, and then bring that back to the board? So it is a very formalized process to really say, at the end of the day, we're talking about anything from, where AI to early learning and things like that is we've listened to the community. We've been out there. We've heard all these things. These are priorities for us. And so it is a very formalized strategic process that isn't like we're going to try to send things out because we haven't connected well. And so anyway, so in a nutshell, like the quick elevator speech, that's what this group does. They do it all over Oregon and have shown a lot of success in doing that. It also lends itself into our ITs, our integrated guidance, which we have to do. And so we're looking at the first year. This would actually, we've used SIA money. We have carryover from last year for SIA. So we wouldn't be taking it out of any of our general funds. We wouldn't be cutting any staff. This is money we actually have to spend by September 30th. And so it meets those goals of the SIA. It meets the goals of the board, coming up with a strategic plan, meeting with the community, connecting with them well. And so it kind of meets all of those things in one area. So.
Have you spoken with Superintendent Mendoza?
I have not yet. So, yeah.
So I do think it would be helpful to get some feedback from other superintendents.
Have you used the program?
Yeah. And then, I mean, in your opinion, is it the best way to spend those funds?
Yeah. And that's where, I mean, that's kind of the right? Is like we need to invest this in our district. And this is an area which we've said over and over, we need to get better at. We need to have a formal plan. The strategic planning process in itself is something that we're going to go through, right? I don't think that we can do a job that these guys can do. This is what they do. This is what they specialize in, as well as them. And it is moving forward. Everything kind of hinges on our ability to build a great foundation of what's those 5 years, what's those 6-year plans. Because right now it's like when we look at our budget, right? We write our budget message like what are those priorities? Where's the board putting that money to? And this is what we said. Our budget reflects those priorities the community gave us. And so what I'm saying is it has to be done really, really, really well at a high level. And so that's where I would say is it's worth the investment because this is where we're going to get the bang for our buck, starting that kind of moving forward. And so, so that's where I say, and 80,000 for me is great. But again, that's full meal deal, right? And we can say, hey, we need to take that down to 60,000, 40,000. Obviously, we're going to lose a lot of days that they are going to be with the leadership team, with the board, with the community. We're going to limit those things. But saying, we just, for for where we're at with that, we know we want to invest in this. How much is the board willing to kind of put towards something that's going to springboard us into the future?
Well, and the other thing he talked about was it is not just a one-year plan, it's a multi-year thing. And I was really trying to get him down to say, okay, 2, 3, however many years. Notice he didn't say that.
He did, and that is kind of the commitment of the board and this community. We're seeing that we want, Estacada on year 4 or 5, or North Platte is what Estacada is. I mean, it's kind of everywhere we're along that journey, saying, hey, we're kind of willing to move on, and we actually want to do less days. We want to do all those things we can craft in the coming years. But year 1 is so important for us to get it right. And we look at our leadership team alone is the PD and the support that we're going to get from them. I joke around with them is I want my leadership team to be a strategic plan, to be a part of the whole process, to know where they're going with it, and say, yeah, I get it. And so there's a lot of training that goes with that.
And I would like to know that the board needs to be involved in this also. We are the face of the district.
And you guys do have a big role in that. And there's time with you guys, and not only, it could be as a group or individual, and saying, hey, what do you think? What do you, I mean, it could be, I have time at 1, they'll jump on it and meet with board members individually or as a group. But it is support all the way down from our community to our board to our leadership team. So.
And as Justin said, I think it would behoove us or you to speak to other superintendents. And I'm interested in LeGrand because this has been their first year. Plus, he is kind of a local person because he's from Ontario. So he knows some of our.
And I have that slide with all these districts that they've been working on in Oregon, and I'm just going to take a few of those right now. We've all worked at, Little Sheridan, like all of those things that start making connections to.
So, comments? You guys don't like to stay.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think Dustin's right, it's worth investing in, just how much is it worth investing in? And I just kind of figured that out as a group. Thank you.
And I think a lot of that depends on what feedback we get from other districts. If they say, they gave us a little feedback from the community, but all stuff we already knew. That,
Well, that would be great to say, hey, we knew that stuff, we are kind of connected with your area. But there's those one-pagers that you saw like that says, hey, here are those priorities, something that looks official and good, to formalize that process and be able to give that to somebody, say, this is our priorities, this is what we're about, I think it's going to be really important, so. Yeah.
but isn't the priority get the kids a good education?
Yeah,
I mean,
and then the prayer is like, what does that mean? And so.
they can read, write, and do arithmetic.
Yeah, I wish you would just.
We get jobs as they are social security.
That's right.
We have the social emotional one, and we have this now, right? I mean, it is all in there, but no, I would agree with that.
So you'll get back to us.
Oh,
with
absolutely,
some more
yeah.
information. Any other questions for Ryan or comments?
Is there a timeline when this needs to be decided?
So we would like to start in August our job is to start and studying NISA and getting all the data, getting all the things, meeting with the principals, meeting with you guys, and we'd like to get it started in August because our end goal is for the first phase to be done by like March, when we start doing budgeting and hiring and those things. We have that strategic plan, so okay, here's where we need to start investing in. Or hey, here are the things we need to stop doing. And so that's when we would like it by. However, it is really there kind of based on us with what we say is.
And also, that money that we need to spend, I understand, needs to be spent by when?
September 30th, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And how much is there to spend? I believe our carryover's a little over 98,000.
And the reason for that carryover is because community outreach, not hiring us right away and the SRO. And so that's where that is.
So, we'll count on you to get back to us with this information. And if there are no other questions on that, we'll move on to the high school handbook. And there you are, Luke.
I don't know if anybody gave you a copy. This is last year's with some revisions in it. So,
I'm glad that whole stack wasn't the book.
it wasn't the whole book. It's gonna get bigger as time goes on. I didn't feel like for year one, that every change had to be made.
I'm pretty sure
Year one.
my class is why it went up that far.
So, I give you one too.
You're the driver.
Yeah. I think there's 2 pages that don't have highlight, so any changes in highlight, I'm gonna get kind of the big ones, and some of it's just language and verbiage, like making sure that people understand, like looking at the cover explanation, right? Just making sure that that's a more prominent position for that. Kind of the big ones, we'll hit them. We do have all our staff hired currently, so that's awesome. There are some material charges for classes that came up that people are getting charged for things that they should be charged for, like if you build a major project in wood shop, right? You have to buy the things that wasn't in there, right? That was something that someone brought up that, hey, my kid came home owing $70 while you built an oak table, right? Does that make sense? That's beyond the skills that you're taught in class, so that's why that's in there. Dressing, grooming, dress code's one thing that when talking with staff and community members, it's obviously a big thing. So there's a change there, mainly knowing that some classes may require a certain type of uniform if you're in the nursing program, for example, and the health career stuff. If you're in wood shop, right, or if you're in welding, you're gonna have the gloves. That's not in there, right? It's an additional cost that potentially that we try to cover, but it may not get covered. It also is the idea that when we have kids going into classroom environments with inappropriate clothing and footwear, an example is wearing pajamas or slippers or blankets or stuffed animals or some things that, in my mind and talking with the staff, isn't probably in line with what we want to be promoting in terms of a learning environment. I think that's probably the easiest way to say it. I think one of the things within the dress code is teaching kids to dress appropriately for the job that they're appearing for. So I don't want it to be overly strict. I don't think the revisions are overly strict. I do think it is a lot clearer than the other one. I do think there's some more latitude in terms of clothing. The one piece I did add to it is it added some pieces that anything that's dress code related. A couple of my major concern areas are always going to be females probably get targeted more often than males. Let's be fair, that's information that we get from kids all the time. So giving leeway in things like, hey, a bra strap is not underwear, boys and girls, right? It's a bra strap. The band of your underwear on your pants, or it is not underwear. You're not exposing yourself. But we are going to ask you not to wear pajamas. We are going to ask you not to wear slippers. And the one that's the big addition in there is the holes in the pants, right? And just making sure, and the rationale for that is that it takes the subjective nature of what that is out. And it is a dress that we would like to promote in our building, meaning that we're here to learn and we're dressing appropriately for the environment. So that would be the one thing, because then we don't have to debate how big's the hole, is the hole appropriate? Because my motto is if we're allowing holes, we allow them everywhere, right? Regardless of where they're at. I'm being honest. So I'd rather that not be in there. So that's one of my preferences in talking with staff. I know it's not something the kids will necessarily enjoy, but it's going to give them latitude to have everything else. Like, we're not going to police leggings, we're not going to police yoga pants, we're not going to police not going to police shorts as long as they're close to mid-level thigh. So that's the one takeaway, that we don't want to have our staff and students and parents arguing. And so in the morning, is that hole appropriate, is that hole not appropriate? It doesn't have a hole, you come to school, you're completely fine, you're not receiving a phone call, right? To have your son or daughter come and change their attire. So just to make it really clear and easy, so this pretty much is the same as what's happening currently in the middle school. So we just revised it and made it much simpler. It does say obviously things like armpits, we really don't get into that. Like, for example, if you have a sundress on like that, no one's going to say a word about that. Generally what we do is we address those by case basis, as they're usually hygiene related, honestly, and that's a conversation with a counselor or with some of their staff that have a connection with that kid. But generally speaking, that's not something we police. It's only there for those reasons, right? The one thing we did do, does anybody have any questions about that? Generally speaking, what I don't want to do, my thought process on this, and always been my thought process, it should not be a moment where kids lose quality educational moments for a dress code issue, right? And so, generally speaking, we like them to be able to rectify it quickly. If they have an issue, we'll send them back to class till clothes come, right? And they'll have them come back to the office and get them changed. So we don't want them missing out on any class because they have a dress code violation, right? The only time that'll happen is when it becomes progressive. Hey, we've had a conversation about what appropriate dress code is, what's not. This is the third time in a month, right, that we violated a dress code. Now you're gonna probably do something. You're still not probably in this class, then you're gonna go to new detention for that, right? Or you're gonna do some restorative justice of some type. Like talk about why dress code's important. You may write me a little paper. We may visit with you 2 weeks, right? You may visit me in the morning every day to check your dress code, right, before you go to first period. Right? Come check in with me in the morning, right, or with Mr. Vickers or with one of the office ladies, right, to make that happen. So, kind of a big one. The other deal is changing the advisory academic support 8th period. Our thought process on this is going to be a 0.25 credit pass, no pass, and what that allows us to do is that currently in a study hall situation, you don't receive credit for a study hall situation because it's not academic enrichment, right, or academic learning. But with the SEL curriculum and then also the additional advisory curriculum, we figure about a 0.25 is appropriate. So about 2 days of the 4 of the week, right, will be used for those types of activities. They're actual new novel learning, right, or extension of your learning. So do that. It'll also give a student that comes in an opportunity to show proficiency in this area. Let's say you're transferring in from Ontario, right? We could look at what their advisory type program looked like. We could also then have a process for them to make sure that, hey, do you have a resume? Have you done a transcript review? So go back in and kind of highlight your credit by proficiency checklist to make sure that they've hit everything that they would have to do as a freshman, right? So they're on track to move forward, give them a chance to still graduate with our standard diploma. So 0.25 is the thought process on that, of pass, no pass, to give them credit for that. The other deal that came up in call credit is we don't currently offer call credit every year. It's, sometimes it's available based upon the number of kids that sign up for it. I would like a very clear schedule in terms of how it's ran. Like for example, do we offer advanced chemistry this year and then next year we do physics, right? Or then do we do A and P every year? So making sure that that's kind of spelled out for a kid's pathway so they can figure that out, right? I have to take advanced chemistry as a sophomore because as a junior, I want to take advanced physics, right? They only offer it then. So making sure that that pathway is currently not in there. For me, that would, like, really honestly, that would go what we can, like our curriculum guide, which kind of got separated from our handbook a little bit. So I like that to be something that we work on. We get our course statements updated a little bit, right? And then we also get our curriculum guide clearer for everybody in terms of what the pathways will look like for our offerings. So obviously a component that's not in here that we've got to decide whether we want to add it to it. I didn't want to make that unilateral decision to add it back in without discussing it with staff. Because currently a lot of the extracurricular and co-curricular handbook stuff is separated from this handbook. Does that make sense? I added some back because I thought they're vital to have in there. But currently those two documents are separate from this document. Right? Components of it still exist, but it's really pretty minimal. And examples, like let's say dance courts, right? It's in here, but it doesn't list the process for how we elect them. Does that make sense? And how they're chosen. It's not spelled out here. Does that make sense? So just something as simple as that, so kids know how do we vote on student council, or how do we vote on, right? So making sure that process is really clear in terms of having that. So that's kind of a statement there. OTI is just an adjustment, just a wording on the calculation of the grading system. Incompletes was a thing that was added. It's on page 13. It's just to clear that up. Right now, incompletes were forever, really. It's the discretion of the teacher. I would like the incompletes to be for a 3-week period after the end of the semester, or the end of the school year. So an example is we allow kids that didn't finish a class, right? Let's say it was Edgenuity, they allowed them to roll it over all the way to the next school year and complete it. So there's too big, in my mind, there's too big a gap of instruction in that time frame to allow that to happen. I don't want things like that happening. I think there needs to be special consideration granted for kids that need it. But at the same point, right, the reality of the world is 3 weeks is pretty much summer school area. So if you're a high school kid and we wanted to extend it through summer school, I'd be willing to do that. I think as a group, that's an okay practice to do. I think that's the intent of it. Same deal, our work in Creative Choices also went a little bit longer because Baker, who we go through, their school year starts a little bit later and it ends a little bit longer, so there's a window in there for the kids to be able to complete their stuff, but we don't want that moving over from year to year, right? Same deal, like, our money doesn't move over to the school district, right? And so, at some point that year has to end to move forward, so that's something I would like to have in there. It used to be a 2-week window, so that's even longer than that, so I think it'll, the other thing, it also fits in line with what our office staff are working, so they're done after 3 weeks, and then they work every Tuesday and Thursday, so there's a kind of a push. Because at that point, staff members are gone. Right, does that make sense? So trying to clean that up a little bit, that's in there. Conferences, it didn't state that conferences were part of the required attendance, and it is, it's part of our calculation of our 990 hours and our 130 seat hours for calculation of kids' credits, right? So that needs to be in there. Update to the credits, depending on where you'd be 24.5 this year if you're a senior, right? Because you're gonna get half credit for advisory, and then moving up through your freshman year, you go to 26, right? In terms of that, so there'll be 2 additional credits you can earn that fall in line with an extra requirement that you currently do with community service. Commencement, just kind of clean that up to make sure that we want kids to dress appropriately, but I also always going to give them an opportunity to rectify whatever there is and participate fully in the event. It said that they would not be allowed to participate in it. I don't think that's my mentality, right? You earn that right, just go home and fix it if it's nothing to fix it. You can borrow my tie if you have to borrow my tie if we're gonna do that series, right? And so I'll find you one. So I wanted to make sure that that's really clear. Those kids have earned that right, and we want them to be able to rectify it and fix it. I don't want anybody reading that black and white and saying, well, you let them participate. You bet we did.
Wait,
Right? Yes.
Can I ask a question about
Yes.
the graduation requirement?
Yeah.
So if a kid fails advisory,
Correct.
academic sport.
What's our game plan, right?
Yes.
We have a game plan, we'll recover it back, just like we would with the kid that came in. So you did not do your transcript review, right? So you're gonna have to do it anyway, or show. It's like anything else, we can go back and say, hey, these are the things you have to demonstrate, right? To be able to pass it. So for some reason you failed, we would go back and you would have to recover it. An example would be, on 2 of those days, instead of doing study hall as a junior, if you failed as a sophomore, we'd reassign you the sophomore lessons you didn't do, right? And so you have to check those boxes off. So what we plan on doing is having a check-off sheet for each grade level, right? And you have to just basically pass those. If you pass those, then you're good. So that's our intent with that.
Just show proficiency, right? Just a proficiency.
Just a proficiency based, yeah. You've completed it to a good enough level, right? To demonstrate that you'll have those numbers. That's our hope anyway. What we got? Breakfast and lunch is kind of the next bigger one on 16, and really it is that, couple things. The first is like keeping food and stuff off our carpet, right? And being in the foyer area. Times that use that, obviously, like if you're eating in the classroom, the teachers need to be supervising that. The other one is really looking at freshmen. We want to do the first 6 weeks of high school as a closed campus, and they earn the right to leave campus for a couple reasons. Mainly safety, we'll be honest. They have to bum a ride from everybody, okay? They don't always make great decisions yet. They tend to be a little more immature, right? So we want to kind of get through that window, not to be mean. We also added in that one of the things we want parents to discuss, transportation, right, with their kids. Do they ride in other cars with other people? Are you able to drive other people once you have your license? Things like that. That kind of stuff's not in there, but we really want that to be. The other thing we're really trying to do within the lunch is use it as a privilege rather than a right, the open campus part of it. So an example is like in our tardy policy later, when you exceed 12 tardies, right, you're gonna lose that privilege for the remainder of the quarter. If you can't get places on time, we're not gonna let you leave and hope that you come back on time, right? We're gonna know where you're at. We're still gonna feed you lunch. You're still able to have stuff delivered to you. You have DoorDash come, I could care less. You're just not leaving, right? So I have you, so it's good to have you. So that's one thing, obviously, within the lunch deal. I think the other thing that's in this one's big for me is designated areas for supervision. It wasn't in there anymore. We only have so many staff members because our staff members go off for the duty free lunch. So between the IAs and the office staff, right, we have to cover campus. That includes also monitoring the lunchroom and also the kids that stay over in the building. So to have kids hanging out like behind the wood shop or in the grandstands or in the parking lot, right? We need them to be in a couple spots so we know that everybody's okay. So that was added back in there that, hey, designated areas will be like the foyer, out in front, in the commons, right? In the main part. Also the idea that kids have been eating lunch like in the locker room, right? things like that. It's not their classroom area during that time, it's unsupervised, or being in the gym or the band or choir area. So really making sure that that's clear for the kid, that there's certain places that you're welcome to be, that you just have to have an adult with you, right, during those times. Signs and posters are just in the right spot. Parking regulations, a couple things really weird about that. There used to be a lot more in there. A couple things I want to add back, like they have to have all their proper legal documents, and I put some in there to make sure they understood, like being licensed, having insurance, right? Using a seatbelt, obeying the stop sign, please, right? And so it seems weird, but I wanted to make sure that was really clear in there because that's not being followed, right? Another deal is really transporting kids outside the cab of a vehicle. I don't think that's something we want, right? We had multiple people throughout the years in middle school principal. I got to see a lot of kids drive by in backs of pickups, and you know, it's not the safe procedures that we want. So we want to make sure that that's really clear, that that's not okay, and that includes obviously directly in front of our school, right? Within 1,000 feet of our school, we can limit that. So if a kid pulls and burns out in the parking lot, hey, they're parking out on the street for a while, right? We're not going to take their privileges away. We're just going to try to educate them because once again, they're still kids with frontal cortex development happening, right? So PE lockers, right? Same deal. The one thing that's there is that we've had a process of doing this anyway, but it's not clear that any items left in the locker on number 19 will either be. We'll try to make contact obviously with them, right? Come get your stuff, and if you don't get your stuff, right, at some point they're going to be donated or disposed of. Right, that kind of makes sense. And so that's kind of what we're doing already with our lost and found, but just clarifying that. The big one right here, this is on page 20, is cell phones and personal communication devices. Now it's all in yellow because it's just rewritten, right? And so I just want to make sure that it's really clear. One thing we did is we changed the definition of a personal communication device because obviously technology changes, right? And so I researched some different things. Really, it's anything that transmits a signal between devices or between individuals, right, used for communication. So that includes a cell phone, that includes a smartwatch, obviously, right, which my daughter loves, by the way, so she loves hers. But the reality of the world is a communication device, and our hope is that we're going to help everybody learn where it's appropriate in your workplace to use it, right? And so, for example, I shut the ringer off on mine when I set it down here today, right? And so our hope is bell to bell, right? In a classroom, you never see them, ever. Right? They should not be in a classroom environment. The only reason they could be in a classroom environment is you can tell me as a teacher or as a principal, my grandma's in the hospital and my mom's going to call me today. By all means, place your cell phone right here on your desk, and when it rings or vibrates, answer it and step out in the hall. Right? Not going to have a problem with that. But if you're texting your friend, right, during math class, okay, your teacher's going to ask you for that cell phone. Also gave them that, so really the easy thing here that's going to happen, right? Number one is that we're going to ask that they either keep it in their backpack or their locker. So I think a lot of us as parents purchase cell phones for my kid to have access to them, I'll be honest, right? Especially high school kids, right? To have access to them. So we're not going to limit that access. We're only going to limit that access during class, and we're going to limit that access in the building. Okay, and so we're going to teach them how to use it correctly. So they can go out between passing periods and step outside the building and use it. But what we're not going to police is where you have it out, times you have it out inside the building. Not to be seen or heard inside the building, not to be used. How about that? That's a better way of probably saying it. Okay, step outside and answer your phone. We have phones in the office that everybody can deliver a message. Everybody says, well, I'm concerned I need to get a hold of my kid. Okay, if it's something you really need to get a hold of your kid about, odds are we need to pull them out of class and deliver that message to them, right? Because the grandma that was sick, right? I don't want them learning on the phone that grandma died in front of 20 other peers, right? That's a conversation that comes to the office, right? Because I need you to pick up your little brother after school. Definitely a family thing that we have to help facilitate, but not something that has to happen in the middle of science class, right? So that's my hope on that. In terms of how it rolls out, and it's pretty simple. We're not going to make a huge deal about it. Depending on where it happens, the teacher or the staff member has the right to ask the kid just to turn it off and put it in their bag or put it in their locker. Nice and simple, right? So as a principal, me walking down the hallway the first couple weeks, I see a kid out in the hallway. Hey, put that in your bag or put that in your locker, right? I walk by them tomorrow, right, and it's out again. I'm like, hey, remember I just talked to you yesterday about that? What's the rule? Oh yeah, I'm supposed to have my bag. Cool, right? My crew's by them. Next time, what's going to happen? Hey, cough it up, right? It's going to the office to me till the end of the day. You can come get it, okay? So that's really where we're at on that, right? And then if it proceeds down the list, obviously, right? So if you look at it, second, confiscated, required to pick up phone, review cell phone policy, student, parent, guardian. Third offense, will require parent, guardian, prior meeting, picking up the phone, and the student will receive a discipline consequence, may include in-school or out-of-school suspension. I'll be honest, usually noon. We'll be fair, guys, right? If it keeps beyond 3, if it's something that's persistent, we're gonna put together a plan, right? An example is like, hey, for 2 weeks, you're gonna check your phone in here at the office, right? So mom knows where it's at, dad knows where it's at, you can pick it up after school, right? We're gonna treat them as adults, but it needs to be something that's not in the classroom and it's not in the hall of their building. So that's our hope. We got any questions about that? Because that's kind of
Is this basically like the middle school policy?
it is with a little more love in it.
Okay.
A little more
Then-
space.
then they
The
should
middle,
be
the
fine.
middle school kids don't get to use it all during the day. And so our expectation in this case is, here's the deal, we could say no, I'm gonna be a realist with you. I could say no cell phones in the high school building. All it's gonna accomplish is when they go to the bathroom, and they're still gonna probably do that anyway, they're gonna go to the bathroom and pull it out. But if I happen to walk into the bathroom, right, then there's a consequence for that. But if you're outside using your phone where it's appropriate, it doesn't bother me a bit. I'd rather give you an avenue to use it appropriately, like you're supposed to as a grown adult, right, than say never, right? If we find it's a bigger problem than that, it may change. Like, right now, we're using backpack and locker because I think there has to be a transitional period, right? Because it hasn't always been that way. Many of them will be able to have their phone on them or their smartwatch on them 24 hours a day, right? And so it's also a process to wean kids off that. It's also a way to give staff an easy way. Hey, you're in class, you don't have to miss instructional time to go to your locker, just put it in your backpack. So it's not on your person. It may still be vibrating in your bag, but it's not vibrating in your pocket, right? Or it's not vibrating in your wrist. So
And there'll be an exception for kids that like check their blood sugar.
100% written in there medical, but once again, the medical, it has to be used appropriately. So if they violate their plan, we have to do something different, right? And we've had to do that at the middle school, where if kids aren't using it appropriately, we've had to sit down with parents and the nurse and rewrite a plan, right? And we figured it out, but they have to have access to it. Absolutely, there's a medical exception for it, written in there, yeah.
Are kids using their phones for their calculators in math class now?
Sometimes, but the reality of the world is they can access that same stuff on the Chromebook. The Desmos calculator, right, can do exactly the same thing. In fact, it's high performing as their. It's better, it's a graphic calculator. In fact, the Desmos is better because then they use to learn how to use it to be able to do their state test. So the reality of the world, we want them using that option rather than their phone, to be fair. Yeah. So there's that one. There obviously was a portion, like taking, disseminating, or transferring, or sharing obscene or pornographic material, because that wasn't in there before, but I think kids need to know that that's a big part of our sexual harassment policy. If there's any type of dissemination, that'll go right to this guy's department, right? So, been really clear on that. I want to point out page 23, it was one of 2 with no changes. So, that was nice. Most of them are just little things. I did add back on page 25 the clarification of the gang stuff. You guys do have that within your board policies, that's clearly written, but there is some additional information in here in terms of clarification. And most of it comes from law enforcement in terms of what signs are, right, symbols are, things of that nature. So just kind of outlines what it is, what our approach will be. It follows exactly along with the board policy, but it's in there just to make sure that we're really clear about that. I don't like that that went away. It's not something that we're gonna pretend doesn't exist in our community. So anyway, this is another big one, tardies, on page 28. So a total of 5 unexcused tardies in the quarter result in noon detention. It used to be they had a group of 3, so every 3 you got a noon detention, right? So right now at the middle school you go 5, and at 5 you get noon detention for 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8 you're supposed to defend school suspension. We usually don't. We do some sort of meeting, right? Before that, we actually do some sort of meeting planning. Why are you being late? How can we get there on time, etc. What'll happen here is for ours, it'll be 5 unexcused tardies. Each additional tardy 8 will result in noon detention. So 5, 6, 7, and 8, you'll get noon, right? Students that are chronically tardy, 8 unexcused tardies will receive noon detention and will lose open campus privileges at lunchtime to the end of the quarter, right? So you have an opportunity to earn it back. It's not forever. However, if you continue down this pathway and you reach 10, you'll be assigned in-school suspension, and the student will begin the next quarter restricted campus during lunchtime. And then at that time, if they demonstrate that they can get to places on time, once again, we'll release you, right? So It's kind of what we're thinking on that one. We're not gonna let you off campus once you get you here if we can't get places. So, the student activities and athletics, there's some revisions in that simply because we've been treating activities and clubs much different than we're treating our athletics. We'll be honest with that. A lot of it is that we're saying that that's tied to a classroom grade, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Right? Regular classwork, if a kid goes on a trip, it makes sense that that kid's missing class for that, right? But if, let's say for example, I'll use one that's an easy one, FFA, right? So we're doing dairy judging this day, right? But I've missed X number of periods and X number of what, right? And you're still going. But if I'm a basketball player, I don't get to go to my game. You could argue that band or choir, once a year we get to go to the district tournament. Yeah, and once a year you get to go to the state tournament and wrestle. You knew it was upcoming, you better be eligible, right? And so treating those very similar, I think, is important. Obviously, we can't, anything that's OSAA, we can obviously drug test for it. Anything's beyond that, we can't. But I think academically and also attendance-wise, those should be treated the same. If you have 5 Fs, there's not a reason that you're missing these classes to go do this activity because it's tied to something that happens during the school day. I leave at noon sometimes to go to a basketball game, right? I miss school to go to a school event, right? So I think they're really similar. That's one thing that the staff, is finding difficult because we're missing a lot of school and we're treating those groups of kids differently. The other thing was added, so I did add some in there. I think that also is like dances and dance courts. That was not spelled out anymore, that you had to be eligible to be on a dance court, right? You had to be passing your stuff. You had to be a good academic and behavioral standing. I think those are treating kids equitably and fair, right, across the board. So that's a big thing in talking with people. The other thing wasn't in there is an assumption of risk that I added back in because I think participating in athletics specifically does have an assumption, right? I think also sometimes when participating in other things it does too, right, in terms of activities. The other thing we looked at is academic or the WAR report. Currently the WAR report's set up where if the kids have an F, they have a week to fix it. One of the major issues with that is that kids were playing the I'll just wait and see what I got game, right? I'll wait and see how much homework I have to turn in to pass was kind of what the story was. And so we're kind of going to turn that on its head a little bit. And the reason is because we want them to be keeping track of their stuff. Like we have parent view, we have student view. We're going to the advisory classroom, right, where they're going to be able to check their stuff every single day. So you're going to know if you're going to have an F in a class, right? And so our hope is that if you come out on the WAR report with an F, week 1, you've got a week to fix it, right? So if you fix it that week, you're going to be ineligible, however, right? So we hit the report, right? You're going to be not able to participate that week, but if you get your stuff turned in at the end of the week, then you're good again. So it's kind of going the other way a little bit, right? Instead of us giving you the grace period, you know it's coming, right? And so we're not playing the game to see if we're going to make it. You're going to make sure you make it, right? So you know it's upcoming. But it's not fatal. You have a chance to fix it. The other thing we wrote in is that there's some things in there that I think that have been prohibited. Sorry to take a lot of time, but been prohibited. One of them is staff members not updating their grades correctly, right, or currently enough, right? So the idea is that there's an exception in there for administration to make a revision, right? So if you turned in 4 assignments, right, and the teacher knows you've turned them in, but he or she hasn't had a chance to grade them and hasn't updated their grade book, right, we can sign off on that, right? Or if you come out and you have an F for some reason, right, like, hey, I turned that assignment in yesterday. Oh, you're right, I didn't have a chance to get it done. And the teacher says you're in good academic standing, then we'll do that, right? Does that make sense? So it doesn't mean that it's done the moment that grade posts, but it will be from Monday to Monday. So you'll know that a week, and as a coach, you'll know for a week, right? Or an advisor, you'll know for a week if that kid's going to be out or not for that week, right? Kind of. Sorry. So that's like the big one, right? The other deal is co-curricular, added back the transportation stuff that we already currently do. The other one is the big one, is that we're requiring them to attend 5 of 8 periods prior to be eligible to participate in practice. We're now saying you have to be at school all day to practice. There's exceptions to that, obviously. If you prearrange something, if you're sick, right, and miss part of a period, you're going to be fine. But if you miss 3 periods and want to come to practice, you're not going to be fine to practice that. You actually absolutely should probably attend practice. Your coach is going to want you to attend practice, My recommendation is you have a desk in the corner, they do their homework from the 3 classes they missed, they watch the practice, right? And they're good to go, right, the next day. The other part is added the trip, right, who can transport people. We've always done this, there's a form we have to fill out if you don't travel with the team and you don't get released to a parent or guardian. Then you have to do another form that wasn't in there, so I clarified that. The other thing that did late night return from activities wasn't in there, so midnight is 1, right, so we're looking at the 8-hour sleep window, right? 8 hours was one period, 1 o'clock is 2 periods, 3 periods, right, and then more, and then conduct on overnight trips, just being really clear, clarifying what the role is of students and also supervisors on those trips in terms of rooms where people can be, things like that nature. Chaperones, things like that.
Can I ask the thought on 13?
Where's 13?
Sorry, it's page 35.
Okay, what about it?
Coach supervisors have the right to take cell phones away at night.
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah.
I mean, I understand the danger issues, kids in motels, kids with cell phones.
Correct.
But those are the times kids are probably in most dangerous potential situations too, on overnights, and might need the cell phones.
Yeah. Generally speaking, it's exactly that same reason where they're texting back and forth. There's a phone obviously in the rooms, most of the places we go, right? So you could call the front desk. The reality of the world is when we do rooms, generally speaking, when they block rooms, they put a coach on each piece of the room, right? So they're coaching down the hallway. So I only know of one program that does that currently in my brain. I think the girls' basketball program is the only one that does that
The
currently.
boys did.
Did too, yeah. And so, always kind of been in there, just made sure that we added to it, that's really why, so they go to bed at night. Here's an example, Coach De Leon, who's doing wrestling, is even considering sleeping in gyms now. He goes, we get air mattresses for free, and it's a much safer thing, and I know what they're doing, and they're not playing Xbox for 12 hours. Right, they're not on their
Cell
phones.
phones, we still didn't go to sleep at night.
Yeah. So anyway, I think he and I were talking about the other day that he goes, air mattress, you can buy an air mattress for $20 now. He goes, I'm buying 20 air mattresses. And he will. So anyway, like he says, it seems weird, but at the same time, you're all in a communal place and you can see everything that's happening. Like it's honestly safer than if they're in rooms. And he's not wrong, really, probably, in this day and age. So it's not a bad idea, honestly. So. Definitely something we can reconsider. I think if it's something that becomes an issue as parents and as community members that we look at, right? I think that, once again, it comes back to why does my kid have a cell phone, right? An example, however, as a parent, my kids put their cell phone in certain locations in that, right?
Well, and I think that, I mean, you're seeing this movement of cell phone technology prevention in Pendleton and, LA Unified, one of the biggest school districts that it is. And part of this is why you have that coach on your table. It is that kind of movement, how we protect our kids from one of the kind of most dangerous things that they're exposed to, and teaching those appropriateness. And so, anyway, those are things that are going to be coming up this year when August starts and kids start knowing, like, they won't let me take my cell phone, or I can't have my cell phone, I can't wear this.
You can 100% have your cell phone, you just can't have it
Yep,
in class
just not in class.
and not in the building.
And parents say, well, what if I need them? Well, again, we have an answer. So just, it's good for you guys to know, but just kind of read over that. And Mr. Cleaver, I
Yeah.
appreciate you, man.
Any questions? Obviously, and here's the deal, anytime we put things together, it's never set in stone, right? I don't think anything we ever do as a school district is set in stone when we find out that there's a better way of doing something, right? So,
Great work.
But clear and concise. I mean, I think we'll see that in the example. If things are clear, then we're concise. And so we're using opportunities to teach kids on 9th graders. This is how you get back to class. This is, and so I just appreciate the work on this. And this is like, today's July 1, so we have one full day as high school principal. Good job.
so we got a couple of things that are happening, so you guys know, we're buying some more lockers, because there's only 342 currently in the school, and we have more kids enrolled in that, so we're looking at purchasing enough to get to 400, right? So we have room that, at some point, even if the cell phones become a further issue, right, or something, obviously every kid can have a locker, right? So things like that, or backpacks, because I think space is a premium, right, in classrooms. If you've obviously been there before, that they're not very big, and if everybody's packing a backpack, it makes the classroom flow. And I think I, as an educator, think the instructors being able to get around a classroom easily and access every single kid is a vital component to good teaching, right? And so kids may not agree with it, but when our staff can't get around a room because there's stuff on the floor, it causes a problem, and they don't access kids and give them help. So,
Fire hazard.
yeah. So
Thank you,
anyway,
Mr. Cleaver. Appreciate
We
it.
have more
Thanks.
questions, but we'll get to you.
Yes.
yeah, come mail at me. It's fine. You know where I'm at. I did move to high school today, so.
Okay.
It's official.
Yeah. Thanks,
think, yeah, I think question
You
one.
can do question 2, I'll do question 3, 4, and 5.
And who's keeping that clock?
I am keeping time clock.
And,
She's
yeah,
gonna do
Brian,
an introduction and conclusion.
the interview with the 15 minutes will start with the first
And
question.
did everybody see that Marie Ballard she withdrew, so.
And you will let people know when they have, what, 3 minutes left in their interview?
I'll do a 5-minute and then a 3-minute.
Okay, so. 15 minutes start.
Speaking of cell phones.
All right, do we need to go over the policy?
Yes. That's
One more time and you can't.
Sorry about
I
that.
don't even know what it is.
It's tacos or something.
Yeah, it's actually fajitas if you want to get something really
That
quick.
sounds
we can do it.
delicious.
Yeah,
Go get it or.
Well, but
She's here. except for-
we might have a,
a break here.
Well, we'll have one at
We have that
7:25 for
break.
sure.
Yeah.
yeah, and maybe even at 7:15.
So,
Feel free to eat it.
Okay, so we know what we're gonna do?
I just know like first question.
do you want me to go get Mrs. Schuster?
Which one you did?
Yes.
First question.
Are you ready?
I know we want about equity. Word up here.
Well, when I go back to this one, I'll go back and
That was good.
half of it. Wish my hair looked like that.
What?
She said she had her hair in the whole back. It's pretty good.
Me too, and then it fell out. I had it too tight.
I was telling Dustin, there was a high schooler that was complaining about the tardy policy, and she's like, I only have like 8 tardies, and I was like, when I was in high school, I got 4, if you got 4, you lost credit, and she was like, oh.
Well, and then if I was, go along and just work the clock, take them an hour, 2 hours.
Are you guys ready for the first candidate?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
I just like keep small.
Alright.
Okay. The format is, I will do a brief introduction, and you have a list of questions. And your 15 minutes will start when we ask the first question, and Brian will be the timekeeper. He will let you know when there are 5 minutes left, and then when there are 3 minutes left. Okay. I don't know that you know everyone here. We have Megan Robbins. She is a 3-year member of the board and has children in our school district. Dustin Martinson is a 2-year member of the board, correct? 1 year.
One.
1-year member of the board, has children in our district. I'm Pat Moranaga. I have no children in the district anymore. They graduated, but I have 6 years on the board. Susie has 3 years on the board, and her children graduated from NISA. Maribel has children in our district and is a 2-year member. Donnie Blue has children in the district, and you're actually a graduate of NISA, correct? Yay for NISA.
We're just a grade apart.
Oh, wow.
I would just go with Donnie.
Who's older?
I am.
I'm probably the best dangerous.
Okay, and we know Amy, she has children in the district. We've actually seen you at some of our board meetings. So, anyway, shall we begin with the first question?
All right. So there are at least 2 meetings in a month and required reading and trainings. How much time do you think is necessary to be an effective board member, and how can you commit to the position?
So, I would think that you obviously have to commit the 2 days, and you also need to be prepared by reading everything beforehand, and anything, extra meetings that come up here and there, I'm aware of those. So, I work here, I live here, I'm available. So I can give as much time as needed, but I'll give as much as I need to make sure I'm prepared.
What is your definition of equity, and how would you improve educational equity in the NISA school district?
If it's okay, I kind of like to steal what Mr. Hawkins said at his interview, because I think that it was a really good explanation of equity, because equity is not just ethnic, but it's also all all, and not just gender, but there's kids that are special needs and there's kids that are high academic. So I think that equity needs to include all the students of different learning, ethnic, poverty, high income, all of those things. I think it's a huge thing, so it needs to be able to benefit everybody.
Thanks.
Hey, what is your vision for the future of Nissa School District, and how will you incorporate the mission statement into that vision?
My main thing is I love kids, and I want to see the school be able to provide for all the kids to get a good education, to be happy to go to Nissa. We already have kids coming from other areas, so clearly we're a good school district. But I remember when we had Mr. Wyborn as Teacher of the Year when my daughter was in first grade, and how cool it was. I mean, we even went to the White House, and I just think that I would like to see us be able to focus on what I know really matters in the community, which is the kids, and not the spotlight that sometimes gets thrown out there that doesn't need to be there. I think on the kids, and if the kids are your number one, then you're going to care about the aides, the teachers, the administration, the board, and the community. But I think number one, it needs to be the kids.
How do you approach making difficult decisions, especially when they may not be popular? And how do you plan to work with other board members to ensure a united and effective board?
So I know that you guys have all seen me come to board meetings, and I've come as a parent and I've come as a community member, but I also know enough to know that if you're on the board, it's not just your opinion, that you have to follow what is legal. And I also feel that a board can't work if they're not willing to listen to other people. So I know it can't just be my way, and I also feel that for myself, giving it a little bit of time to think about it, because sometimes you might initially feel a way, but you need to take the time to listen and hear. So if Susie and I didn't agree on something, if I take the time to listen to why she has a different opinion, and if our goal is to do what's best for the school, that's what my goal is, not my personal opinion.
How will you use data to inform your decisions and policies on the board?
Well, I think that being on a board, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. And sometimes people come in and they don't understand all those things. And I would have to make sure that I knew what the legal stuff was. I mean, I think it's awesome you have a lawyer on the board, because he's going to see things from a different point of view. And you have to be able to know your policies of the school. I would have to be educated on our school policies. I'd have to be educated on our state policies, and I'd have to be able to use all that data to be able to make a decision that's not personal based.
Okay. The last question is mine, it's not on here. Do you have any questions for us? Easy questions.
Easy questions. I don't know that I have a question. I would hope that you would be able to see my heart for kids. I don't know that I have any questions for any of you personally. I will say though, outside of Maribel, I've spoken with each of you on an individual basis. Not that she doesn't, not that you're not approachable. I just haven't had an opportunity to speak with you. So I appreciate that you guys have all been willing to answer questions when I have them.
I appreciate the questions.
Thank you. That's all the questions we have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good 4th of July.
Yeah, that water.
Thank you.
Remember, biggest heart in the world. I know, that's why I said I always take the questions, but understand. What's the 6:55, so I don't know.
Well, so we scheduled them all 10 minutes apart, but then the others 15 minutes. So we got 15 minutes, we just wanted to go minutes or 5 minutes early.
Is he
so
here?
ready to go.
My next one. Oh, it's not here. I thought it was 10 minutes or 5 minutes in between.
Leave ourselves a 5-minute buffer.
Yeah,
In case something
if they need 15, that's okay.
They need 15, if they take the whole 15, you can just cross.
How are you guys doing? With those stuff?
With what?
With those stuff?
I thought about signing in the other day.
The first lesson was so easy. I'm like, oh, this is easy. And then I'm like,
I did the first lesson and then I haven't done one since.
there's one where you have to, that has pictures and it'll say like, head on it is drinking. And so you click on the picture, the one you think it is, and then it goes, so you click on another one, it goes, I clicked on like every single picture and I'm like, it has to be one of them.
Brian likes to like look over my shoulder while I'm doing it. He's like, ooh, I know that one. No, stop it.
Lana does the same thing. He'll try and tell me the answers. Shut up, I can't figure this out myself.
Yes, I hope we all are going to use this. It's a good opportunity.
You're pretty bilingual, but you can communicate pretty well. Because I think I've seen you.
Johnny has a uniform that can help him communicate.
No, actually, sometimes causes damage to the ones.
They pretend like they don't speak English.
I have discovered.
And then when I start talking, it's like, okay. And then they just talk.
But I thought somebody else would jump up if I started.
Oh, which one? I'm waiting to see.
Well, what do you say if he's out there?
Actually,
And Robert, when you're doing that kind, you told me to.
right.
And they haven't heard out.
Also, when she said she felt close.
See if that's enough.
So when you don't answer,
Well, and she called her to see if she could move out.
well, that way we can go over some of those other things.
Get that many
So-
carpets still.
I was looking at the dress code
Yeah, I
there,
know.
and it says non-religious
I like
affiliation. A lot of the Hispanic kids wear those shirts with the hedge and stuff. Does that mean they can't wear those?
I thought it was with like,
Hatred, I thought
Yeah,
it was
she said
hate speech or hate.
And then it says writing on any part of the skin. What do we do with kids who have tattoos?
I thought about that, but I don't think there's much they can do about
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I think it's more of like, they don't want like swear words and stuff.
Yes, thank you. It's a great question.
I'm like,
It looks like regular chicken.
Do you guys have a lot of Mexican food there?
What's that?
Do you guys have a lot of Mexican food?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna stop that.
Okay, we started this last
I'll wait till there's.
We started this.
Yeah, it's not quite good. It's a nice
So
benefit.
how's Dusty,
Is that what
or Jeremy doing with his cross getting, pretty decimated?
They got beat up, but I think the onions, they'll be in shock a little bit, but they'll come back.
I hear it's him working in the,
I'm worried about him.
Yeah, I mean, the corn, I don't asked him about corn.
You love it?
It's so shredded.
Well, I drove, went to Colorado, and it was like this, it looks like little green matchsticks.
Right, right, and that's just an opinion, it's in the ground, so the leaves will come back.
And I think it's farmers that, their shed that's right across the river, 3 of their sheds are on roofs.
No, right.
So,
Feel like it's special.
No, it heats things up.
and you didn't get it available.
I
I was trying to get out my window, but I couldn't see this far out my window. And I thought, no, because the window, I was getting it was that intense.
Yeah, that's what Whitney was afraid of, she's driving back from Ontario, and she said, I thought the
That's all
windows
that
were
matters.
breaking the
They
car.
see it.
Yeah, one had just dropped off a patient at the hospital, and he said he had to pull over in the ambulance because he couldn't see. Let me guess, who am I from Sleepy Creek?
I didn't even think it. No,
No,
I mean, it would probably help me, but. Thank you, Lisa. I think we starved.
I'm glad the phone was good help.
Once you started it, you started it.
That's right.
We took on a way too big project. We lifted up the mattress and I was like, oh my gosh, how do you have so much stuff shoved under there? And we just pulled out bags and bags and bags of stuff. Like
You're making me feel bad.
3 30-gallon bags of just,
Go
oh,
for
that's
the
where that
things,
sock went.
Crystal.
Oh, why do you have 3 soccer balls under your bed?
To support the mat.
And 2 footballs.
I'm a range girl.
The boys were just.
Everything tastes, everything tastes better with mattress.
I
His bed frame, like the little blade with the wheel that broke, bent down. Really Alright, let's bring up again.
We got a new mattress for Ryan.
Is it really good too? I'm not really sure what it is.
I had to buy a bed frame.
yeah.
Uh-huh, ranch. What's on the broccoli?
Is it mayo and Parmesan cheese?
Like when you do,
I will ask
when you
him.
do,
I didn't,
Like a lotte or something.
yeah, if you like broccoli. Beans have a little kick
Especially if you have more hot sauce.
I saw Michael walk.
to it. Maybe he doesn't know where to go.
I saw him like walking, but
How long ago?
like when I was getting food. Or maybe it was him. I thought it was him.
Ryan's been standing out there waiting for him.
All right.
But maybe,
Or maybe it wasn't him, maybe it was somebody else.
There's a lot of kids that just came to pick us.
Oh.
those custodians have worked so hard getting the
Yeah.
trees cleaned up.
What's that?
So they worked so hard getting the mess cleaned up out there. When are they gonna start on the park, or did they start?
I'll find out. I think, one of the things they're waiting on the CIS.
Or what?
CIS,
What's that? CIS?
our insurance carrier.
Oh. She didn't show up?
Easier to narrow it down. Makes it easier to narrow down.
Oh, yeah.
He said he might not be here.
Roberta.
Yeah. We won't be here.
And the next one, Colleen, she tried to call her twice and she.
Oh, really?
It's in the daily, the OSBA news we got.
I could put it up front.
Who will get the others?
Let's say that goes.
AJ? Antonio?
Oh, okay. Who's there?
Just continue our meeting on board training. Everyone got the information from Megan on the basic board responsibilities webinar. And just to let you know, OSBA is having a webinar at 1 o'clock on the 17th of this month on public meeting laws. So you can sign up for it and do it live, or you can watch it later. Also, there is the summer OSBA conference in August. And I got some information from OSBA about what they are doing with the shakeup, having the change in executive director. They made a settlement agreement with him, and they have
With the master.
brought in Emily Nischek as the interim executive director, and this month they're going to need to decide what they're going to, how they're going to proceed in finding a new director.
Time for Roberto now.
I mean, it's perfect to eat.
So do I still have like parking tickets that the kids have to put in their car? To be able to park in the parking lot?
Registered.
Did they get the bleachers all taken out?
Yep, no, really.
So we have to have the book done by.
It really is an enlightening book.
Is it
I
a
could
music?
shove it on my pile of books on my dresser, or like my 9 books I haven't finished.
You can't do that. I told Ryan you'd have it finished.
Yeah.
Give us
Make
a
them all
report
fit.
on
I'll have to put it on top.
Do you know where Roberto drives?
Used to
You
drive
know,
a red.
pickup cover.
That's in the pickups. Well, there's a red pickup on the end, is that,
No, it's his.
okay.
This is more of a
You looked into
We've got outlines, advisement, right capability. And there's one of the books that yeah, it's like on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Outlines are really, yeah, it's not as thick as that one. It's like, it's about this thick and it's smaller.
Oh,
So it's
that's
a really
okay.
interesting book.
So, and while we have a little bit of time, I don't know if you guys got this news, but we got this news Friday night. Is our HOSA won, our HOSA chapter at NISA won the Red Cross International Chapter of the Year.
International.
International, there were teams from like South Korea, France, China, like, we were recognized as the International Chapter of the Year. And it's a big deal, and if you guys saw that Red Cross video, it was kind of all of those things that they put in there, and Andrea was mad. I was gonna go, but anyway, I mean, she was,
Where was it at?
oh gosh, I forgot off the top of my head.
Somewhere far away.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, when you think about that, that's like
That's awesome.
Olympic size win for us here in our kids and the commitment they made. And so, looking for ways to honor them, probably like did something during Thunder Egg days.
Talk,
Yeah.
check the pictures.
But, yeah, I mean, that's really cool. Little Nissa, right?
That's awesome.
International.
Yeah,
Back on the map.
back on the map, that's what I'm saying.
I told
It's
him
like,
that Oregonian should never cover anything.
Should be.
To
start back on the map.
cover that. And he also did a press release like there, somebody.
I can, one of the ladies that I work with, her son works for one of the newspapers over that way. I'll send it to her.
Yeah,
Hopefully the local papers would be, it would be nice if they were going.
I know that Andrea's working with, their reporter today. They have something, so.
Maybe have them come to a school board meeting and
Yeah,
do something.
a good way to kick off.
Present them with some.
Back on the map.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have to give up donating blood though.
Just one.
Yeah.
Well, they always, which arm do you normally use? I go, this one. Then they usually go like this, and they search. And they're like, can we see your other arm? And then they look at that one, and then they go, let me look at my supervisor. I'm like, very good.
Well, it's like that inmate they tried to give that medicine to. And they couldn't find it.
The last 2 times they couldn't find my vein. So,
But you drop it.
so it rolls easily. And so they miss. Then after they do this a few times, then they have to give up.
Vegetables.
And then I come out with the gold.
You hold it.
And it's multiple people that have done it.
Chelsea likes salad.
I did do 2 gallons though. I did do my 2-gallon thing.
I say just touch your arm on.
Well, one time the needle rolled into my vein, so like it stopped. And so then the guy did something on the what, he forgot to clamp it and then blood squirted
So
everywhere.
initial 740 now.
What you doing?
Made it interesting at
We
least,
roll
right?
through our policy
I was gonna
updates.
say, some of the stuff we did with the exam.
Okay, policy update. Hope you don't hold your lead.
Oh, they were fun.
Oh, yeah. I want to put a hold on BBF, which is board member standard of conduct. I want to talk to OSBA legal, adding an item about attendance. I'd also like to put a hold on CBC, the superintendent contract, which is an option thing. I want to make sure that, you know, with our legal, that it's okay. And then, I noticed that on JEA and JEAAR, compulsory attendance, there was a hold stamp on those two. So,
And that hold was due to our local ordinance. And so that's why we have a hold on next. Because we do things a little different.
so other than that, I felt comfortable with these. So I don't know how you all
Okay,
felt.
that's hardly go by. Yeah, I can tell you it's something.
Do you really want me to start?
Hey, please do.
Okay, I'll roll through.
That's why we ate that, but.
All right, this one's more of a question, non-discrimination. Who is our district civil rights coordinator?
What?
Who's our district civil rights coordinator?
Gina White.
Okay, that was just a question, that wasn't anything. Okay, the superintendent, I know Pat, you said you wanna put a hold on this one. But even if we took it off hold, so in the highlighted, it says the board may not direct the superintendent to take any action that conflicts with local, state, or federal law that applies to school districts. I think we could take out that applies to school districts. We probably shouldn't
That's
be
true.
directing any superintendent to take action against any law. This superintendent's contract, this one was strange too, but, and it says will include a 12-month notice of termination for such provision.
That was what got me.
Yeah, because it says a mutually agreed to termination without cause. Well, if it's mutually agreed to, why would I have to have a 12-month hold?
So we're gonna say 12 months for the
And we all agree to that. I just don't, if it's something that's totally agreed to, we could agree to do it at any point in time. Licensed evaluation administrators, that one's kind of strange, because it says formal evaluations will be conducted, get rid of made at least once a year, and then down in subsection 2, it says evaluations will be made and got rid of conducted. Sounds,
Should be conducted.
yeah, that one, I think it just got slipped there on that wording. Right. Bidding requirements. Sorry.
Sorry, I just wanna make sure I have the right one.
At the top of page 3, there's an and in there that shouldn't be there. I know some of it's nitpicky, but it's the ORS, comma, the OAR, comma, and this policy and administrative regulations. It could just be comma, this policy, comma, and administrative regulations. That one really doesn't matter. Okay. I didn't circle anything, I just put a sticky on.
You're supposed to remember.
So, what?
You're supposed to remember that.
Well, on student health services, I got rid of language. In case of sudden illness or injury to a student or staff member, first aid will be given by school staff. That's all taken out. Is that because it's in our other healthcare policy that Andre's been working on? Is it just a redundant thing, or are we actually taking out that says if kids are having an emergency, staff don't have to administer first aid to them?
I think our student health plan, right, which is kind of based on those
Right.
policies, so that's what we have.
So it's just a redundancy?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot of those in there, especially the health stuff.
Okay. Same thing on injury, illness reports. Just taking out that treatment stuff, I figured it's probably in the health plan. Okay, the communicable diseases. So it talks about how an employee may not attend work respectively while in the clinical stage of a restrictable disease, or when an administrator has reason to suspect a student or employee has been exposed to any disease for which exclusion is required. And then when you get in and it talks about on the other communicable diseases form, it talks about what is a restrictable disease, and it includes COVID-19. Well, do we want them not going to school, or do we have rapid testing kits available? So instead of just somebody says, well, I think they might have COVID, wouldn't we want to say, it's not that they send them home, it's that they administer a rapid test and if it comes back negative, they stay at school?
Well, and I think on there it says, it is required, right? Right now, locally in the county health department, it's not required that they miss, right? And so, I think that's kind of the go-around of that.
Well, other than it defines restrictable disease in one of these other documents, this one right here, communicable diseases are defined by rule and include but not are limited. Let's slow down with talking. Are defined by rule and include but are not limited to COVID-19, chickenpox, diphtheria, hepatitis A, hepatitis E, measles, mumps, and so on. And so when it's talking about a restrictable disease here, it's defining COVID-19 as a restrictable disease, which would be one that they would have to get sent home for.
And I think it's may required, or, I mean, that's where I was trying to get in there, maybe required, or is it saying it will?
It says employee may not attend school or work respectively while in a communicable stage of restrictable disease.
Which one are you doing?
I see, yeah, I see.
So there's two different ones that say communicable disease, GBEB and GBEB-AR. And so I'm just wondering if there needs to be some language in that second paragraph of GBEB that says if rapid testing is available, such will be administered. So if the kid has,
But down here, it doesn't say that. On the AR,
right,
it doesn't say COVID-19.
it does right here in restrictable
But here,
diseases.
you sell.
Right, but it's stopped, but it, okay, so it's got it in two different places then.
Are they required?
Well, let's see, but in GBEB, it says they may not attend school or work. Down here on GBEB-AR, it's different. But GBEB says they can't attend school or work. So I just don't think those two documents quite agree with each other.
And I think especially with the communicable disease plan, there's a lot of it is we have to update the school health plan based on this portion as well, and that's where,
Right.
because Andre was in here saying, well, this is what we do, and especially when you do, like the COVID-19, the new rules. You know, if you were 24 hours, the same thing like with the schools.
But we still have people who hear somebody cough and they get nervous, and so I wouldn't want a teacher saying, well, that kid's been coughing a lot, we're sending him home. Because it's a restricted disease,
Or go get them tested, and that's another one,
Right.
right, that we don't want to box ourselves in on, and so, but I understand what you're saying, I can talk about it.
and we probably have to be pretty careful on the testing too, because we wouldn't want any testing to occur without parental consent. So we don't want a kid getting sent home without knowing, yeah, if they've got measles or mumps or hepatitis, whichever one's listed in there, yeah.
Well, and that's part of it, is you can't send somebody home for COVID-19 if you don't test for it here, right?
Right.
You have flu-like symptoms.
But you can't test without parents.
You can't, and we don't have, I think all of our tests are expired yet, so we'd say, hey, there's something, you may go get them tested, it's up to you, but, I mean, unless somebody actually says you have it because you got a test, then you can't do anything.
Right, okay. Well, except it says suspected. It says if an administrator suspects somebody to have one of these diseases, then the kid can't go to school. I don't think suspect is really enough.
Yeah, I agree, and especially where we're not medical professionals,
Right.
so to make that suspected, like, I heard runny nose is the new symptoms, you have a runny nose, that's suspected, right? Maybe,
Right,
so.
no, I just ate hot sauce, but yeah, I
As a
do.
kid,
And especially like 2 or 3 of these
So,
symptoms,
just
but they're
out of
like,
curiosity.
anyway, so, yeah.
Question,
Yeah.
where we have to follow state law
Absolutely.
administrative
Right.
rules.
And everybody's different.
Law, even
Well, the state law probably says you have to have a policy on
it
it.
just says highly recommended on here.
Who's our next person?
Then
Megan?
Colleen's supposed to be at 7:40.
Yeah. Where is it?
Colleen, she pronounces it
Highly
Colleen.
recommended. Highly recommended.
Because, yeah, she's nice.
I mean, I don't know why we would need those policies if we're gonna have a comprehensive health plan anyway.
Right.
I think that 7:40
I'll just stop then. I was on a roll.
On the superintendent contract form, year, we have to pay them out for the year, regardless of what the law says.
No, that's what, I want the ones with the flowers. Have you seen those? They only come in size 5.
Got it. Okay.
Did you want to get started
This is
early?
Coleman.
Yeah.
All of them.
I did ask her to come early.
That's fine.
I did ask her to come
Everybody
early.
ready?
We could be ready.
You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
You want me to bring her in?
Oh, I'm good. Do they have to sign in?
Writing on this thing.
Becky and I know in elementary school, that kids write stupid stuff.
My cousin always had the answer as far as that's written on her leg.
I never got caught.
No, she likes that on the front row.
Wait, and we have your
Huh? That was in,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the camera is on, it's
Sophomore
recording, I think I just
biology.
want to give you a heads up on that.
Okay.
And so all of the board meetings are live streamed and on there, so just for you to know.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, I will do a brief introduction of the board and a few coin. And your 15-minute interview will start, the time will start when we ask the first question. Ryan will keep, Superintendent Ryan Watkins will keep track of time, and he will let you know when there are 5 minutes left, and he'll let you know again when there are 3 minutes left. Okay? Okay. Colleen is a retired systems analyst. She has a grandson who will be starting kindergarten this fall.
Yes.
You've been in our district for a couple of years. I hope you like it here.
I
Yes,
love it
it's a
here.
wonderful-
Absolutely love it.
So, and I will briefly introduce our board members. We have Megan Robbins. Megan has children in our district. She's been on the board for 3 years. Justin Martinson has children going to school here, and he's been on the board for 2 years, 1 year.
Yep.
I don't know why I said it would be 2 years. So, I'm Pat Moranaga. I'm currently the chair of the board. My children graduated from NISA, and so did my husband. I did not. I've been on the board for 6 years. Susie Ramos is our vice chair. Her children graduated from NISA, and she actually taught the elementary school and is retired teacher from NISA. Maribel Ramirez has children in our district, and she has been on the board for 2 years. I'll get it right, yeah. And then we have Johnny Ballou, who graduated from NISA, has children going to school in our district, and he is our local chief of police. So,
Nice to meet you.
we will each take turns asking questions.
So there are at least 2 meetings a month and required readings and trainings. How much time do you think is necessary to be an effective board member, and can you commit to this position?
I was on a board before for just a Kairos ministry, and that one didn't require a whole lot of time, but I suspect this is going to be more involved. I was kind of thinking it's going to be anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a month, but I'm also open to more, since I really just recently retired from my part-time job. So now I'm retired fully and have the time to commit.
What is your definition of equity, and how would you improve educational equity in the NISA school district?
Equity is treating, and I'm going to go from a personal perspective, but it's really treating every person as an equal. No difference in their color, their creed, their religion, nothing else, that everybody is really equal. and making sure that, to me, if you teach children to see past color and past differences right away, we'll end up with a much better world. That answer you were asking.
What is your vision for the future of Mesa School District, and how will you incorporate the mission statement in this vision?
So I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure what the mission statement is and the vision. I will say from my perspective, what I see, especially with a young child coming in and I want to see him grow, I see, this community is such a neat community with both so much diversity, and I want to see him grow in that whole, learning English and Spanish. I want him to grow and be very open to the world, and that's what I really see for all children. I want to see them have this vision that they can achieve anything they want, and that all they have to do is work toward it, that they can put themselves out there and grow.
How do you approach making difficult decisions, especially when they may not be popular? And how do you plan to work with other board members to ensure a united and effective board?
When I've had to work with, lots of different places I've worked with, there have been the difficult decisions, and sometimes you have to realize you're not always going to be popular, that you have to make tough decisions sometimes that may not resonate fully, but what I would choose to try and push toward is something that the majority of people would be willing to back that decision. So it's kind of looking at every piece of information you can get and funnel that down into how you make that decision, so that you're making it based on facts and not just personal feelings. As far as working with other board members to ensure a united and effective board, for me, that has always been, in any kind of team situation, it really comes down to listening to each other, to truly listening, giving every person time and a chance to put their input in, so that you can once again weigh what they're saying against what you're doing. And I've seen that with me before. Systems analysts constantly kind of start doing this. And what I always found was if we just kind of stepped back and started saying, well, wait a minute, why do you think X when I'm thinking Y? And you just kind of eventually start working together, and most of the time you come to a consensus by doing that. And that's what I would want the board to be able to do, is come together based on, once again, facts and not as much as of an emotion, which is hard because I'm an emotional person. But yeah, that's how I would approach it.
How would you use data to inform your decisions and policies on the board?
I know, already started on that line, but yes, data is extremely important. And coming from the background I have, you really need to make sure you have it laid out in the right way. I mean, you can take data and make it whatever you want it to be, but what you really need to do is make sure that the data is stating facts, not a preconceived notion, which can happen very easily.
I get to ask the last question,
Good.
which is, do you have any questions for us?
No, I guess my only question would be, because the question to me was how much time, would be about what is the expectation time-wise per month for the board member? And is it just depending on your position in the board, or is it, like everybody puts in about X amount of hours, or does it just fluctuate?
It fluctuates, We have 2 regular meetings a
Mhm.
month, a work session, and
Okay,
a week later, we have our regular full board session.
okay.
Oftentimes, we get nice little packets like this.
Fun.
Yeah. And each of us, does go through, gives our opinions. So there are other times when we have special meetings. Brian, you figured out once how many meetings we've had in a very short time.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head,
So, and there are times, like, we'll have, certain subcommittees, for example, during negotiations. And, so some board members will volunteer to be on a negotiating team, and that can oftentimes take a lot of time.
And that, like I said, once again, I'm not worried about the time at all. With retiring, I'm actually kind of feeling like I'm gonna be at loose ends. I've been working about 20 hours, just doing some bookkeeping for a company, and retiring from there my last day was Thursday, so I'm just kind of in shell shock right now of what am I gonna do with my time now? So when I saw this, I thought, oh, perfect timing for me at least to look into this, and I feel like I really want to be a member of this community, and this seemed like a good place for me to fit.
Well, there's always opportunities to go to basketball games or
Oh.
school plays and
I would love all of that.
be part of the community.
Oh, definitely love all of that. I was laughing because, this is a small school, and I went to a very large school. My graduating class was almost 900 people. Yeah, so this is like shell shock again, except that I'm excited. I'm really excited that my grandson's going to be in a community, because I think a smaller school allows more community, and it allows that interaction, and attending functions and doing things as a community is important to me and my family. Okay, well, thank you. Oh, I should have asked the next steps for this.
We will be deliberating after we've done all the interviews, and we will, let you know.
Yeah, okay, sounds perfect. All right, well, it was nice meeting everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we have a board meeting on Monday.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. Oh, I did see that, this
Next
coming
Monday's the
Monday,
board
right?
meeting.
I did see that on the schedule, and is it at 6?
Yes.
Because I think I saw that it was a different time.
Or something,
Usually it's some kind of.
Yeah, I think I saw that it was at 6, and I went, oh, I put that on my calendar to make sure I don't miss it. So, once again, it's nice meeting all of you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Thanks. These sheets for the next.
Where did you do this? Say where she-
Last job was in Florida,
Oh, wow.
To Purdue.
and she got her education in
Oh, and
in Florida, she was at an Air Force base.
Oh, yeah. In Florida. She worked for Department of Health, Vision and Disability Determinations.
She has an extensive resume.
About 10 minutes to.
there anything else from corporate life?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
The next one is here as well.
Oh,
Are you ready?
Jonathan?
She put those questions in there.
Oh, she did.
Oh, yeah. 'cause we have the
Wait for
You guys ready for Jessie?
Yeah.
You okay?
If she's ready for us?
Yeah. She said, let's go. I'm here, right? So I have a chair over here, there's the questions.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Moulton.
Well, the question is, how are you doing?
You want the truth? Or we can just say, good, how are you? I'm okay.
We'll do a quick introduction, and then Ryan's going to be our timekeeper, and 15 minutes will start when the first question is asked.
Okay.
For all of you who don't know, this is Jasmine Ramirez. She has children in our school district. She's served on our budget committee, and she's also vice president, I believe, of the PAC. Let's see, we will start. Megan Rollins is a 3-year member of our board. She has children going to school in our district. Dustin is a 1-year member of our school board. I got it right this time. And he has children going to school here. I'm Pat Morinaga. I'm the chairperson this year. My children did go to school here. They graduated. My husband also graduated from NISA. And I am a 6-year member of the board. Susie Ramos is our vice chairperson. Her daughters graduated from NISA. And she, I'm sure you know, is a retired teacher from NISA. And she's a 3-year member of our board. Maribel is a 2-year member on our board, and her children, she has children in our system. Donnie is a 3-year member on our board, and he has children in the school system. And in case you didn't know, he is our, you are the only graduate of NISA on our school board.
I know I graduated, I don't know about the rest of you.
Well, thank you, Donnie.
Just saying. I mean, I had to check to make sure the signature was there, I was a close one. but made it.
When was the last time you checked?
Actually, about a year ago. Still couldn't believe it.
Okay, so first question is, there are at least 2 meetings a month with required reading and trainings, and how much time do you think is necessary to be an effective board member, and can you commit to the position?
I can. And if you ask me how much time I get, if you were trying to do what I believe you guys do for the school, for the kids, for the staff, I think no matter the time, you will always be running short on your time in your meetings because you will need more time than we ever have for you to do. For me, you guys do a super thing. You guys have to come up with a plan, right? Clear the space for the superintendent so he can try to run smooth the whole school. And to do that, it's, I would say, a lot of time consuming, and bring all the plan together, I think it's a lot. So if I have to come here and be with you guys all day, I'm willing to do it. I want to be working with the kids. I want to work for the kids. I'm pretty sure the staff too, they need some stuff, and I'm mean, I'm here to just work with everybody. I wanna bring part of the community here too, so they can talk to you guys and you can hear what their needs are. There's a lot of Hispanic people there, they don't even know what a school board is. I want to come over and explain to them, why are you guys here? Why are you in this position? Why are you working for the district? So I can be working if you want me 24/7 on this, and you know me, you know that I worked for the PTO before, I'm there. You know, if you just say, Jasmine, I need this, you know that we'll be there.
What is your definition of equity and how would you improve educational equity in the Mesa School District?
Well, how can I improve it? Exactly, don't know, but I'm pretty sure we can come up with a plan to get whatever we need to implement those plans or whatever you need, or the funds you need for the plans you want to do for the school. Like I said, I've been just part of all this for only a few months. I've been part of the PAC, PTO, stuff that where we don't really talk about, you know, funds, equity, what do you have, what do you need, stuff like that. So, but I'm willing to learn. I'm here to listen. I'm here to learn what you guys do and what you want me to do, what you want me to learn. So I'm here.
Okay, our next question is, what is your vision for the future of NISA? And how will you incorporate our mission statement into this vision?
I want every single student to be able to graduate, no matter what. We all have different needs. I want to find out why are the goals for the parents, what do we need, what we need to help the students to do whatever to graduate. There's a lot of places where we need to work with the parents to help the students to graduate. So I want to be there. I want to know why and how. But I want every student from NISA to graduate and have a degree and have a plan for the future.
How do you approach making difficult decisions, especially when they may not be popular? And how do you plan to work with other board members to ensure a united and effective board?
I think that you need to first pay attention to both sides of the story of whatever needs there are for the students, for the teachers, or what's going on. And I can hear your opinion, I can hear Susie's, Pat's, and I'm pretty sure we're adults and we come up with a one solution narrative thing. We are, or you guys are, a lot of, believe it or not, we always say, two head think better than one. Okay, we can come up with a solution. But we need to, like I said, hear first what's going on and why.
All right, how would you use data to inform your decisions and policies on board?
How I use it? Well, exactly like I said, I have a general idea what you guys do. I'm not exactly, exact thing or the points that the board is doing right now, but I know that you just have to come up with some stuff to help the school, right? I'm pretty sure that everybody can just say, okay, this is the problem, let's try to find something out, and this and that. We will get all the information that we need to come up with whatever solution, whatever problem we have. And you can use all the history of something or some problems that we have in the past to just let everybody know what we need to come up with.
I get to ask the last question.
I
Do
can
you
remember.
have any questions for us?
No. Like I said, I probably have a general idea of what you guys are doing, and I think you're doing a very good job. I respect your decision, and you guys, there are like so many members, I'm pretty sure you guys do whatever you can to do the best for these kids and for the district. So all I have to say is thank you for whatever you're doing. I know there's always time for improvement, but you're doing a really good our kids are really good kids, I'm saying, in school. Thank you. And can I answer the first question? How my day was going? I've been running all day. My son's supposed to leave today for the Navy. And they got a miscommunication, so I was running Nampa, Boise, Ontario, back to Caldwell, Meridian.
But did you get them off?
I finally dropped him at the hotel.
Okay.
I'm super nervous and excited and proud, but I need to go and talk to my husband because he's been crying all day.
By the way, this is all videoed, so it's live stream.
You can show it. Oh, go, you can stop at my house. You can see him. He was like, "Are you?" He's answering his, my allergies. I'm like, "You don't have allergies. Why your eyes are so red?" You will think mom will be doing that part. No, that's bad. He's been crying all day. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm crying from Portland all the way to Stop. Come on, good job, Chelsea. Okay, we have 3 candidates. All right.
We have 3 very different candidates.
3 very different candidates. And they're all 3 very good candidates, I think.
I do too.
Tough decision.
So, and all answer the questions differently, but they answer the questions. They all seem to understand the time commitment.
They all seem to want to put in the time.
All 3 have children as their priority focus.
The first and the last even more talked about how it is important to them how kids succeed.
Number 2 talk about growing and being open to a diverse community as they grow up. That they see, she sees that value in our schools, in our community.
I think I would go with all 3.
I was gonna say, this is so hard, I don't think there's one that I go, I don't like.
Yeah.
Or 2 that I don't like. I think anyone of them will do a good job. You have maybe a little bit higher energy with 1 and 3. And then I like the data ability of number 2, and I mean, just, we started this meeting off with talking about having a group put together data for us so it can be interpreted and drive our goals going forward. And if we were to do something like that, she would be a good asset on that. But the other 2 just have more energy.
And the last one being bilingual and Hispanic community, I think would be a plus.
I feel the same, Justin, they're all 3 of them are really good. We all know, everyone's willing to get around and talk, and things, you know, even if it's not and interaction, really interesting, kind of talk to them about what that person is. And it's awesome. That was interesting. And I agree with number two, it's just, there's a background check, there's an initial stuff, I think, just a minefield over here. That's all.
I did appreciate that the second candidate did say that she understood that data can be manipulated.
I wrote that down too.
Yeah,
And we need the data to state the facts. Wrote that down too.
the facts, not the, what it,
Skewed.
yeah, she said not, how did she put it?
Preconceived notions is what I have written down.
Let's look at stating facts, not
That they already got too.
I liked all of their opinions on equity. You've got number one, it includes all, including special needs and low income to high income kids. Number two, said treat everyone equal no matter what. Number three is doesn't know, but is willing to learn. Oh, yeah, as to our goal for equity, she didn't know our goal for, she didn't say she doesn't know what equity is.
Right.
She doesn't know what our goal for equity is, right, but she seemed to be along those exact same lines of everybody needs equal opportunity, so they all seem to get that.
I wonder, and I'm trying to word this so that I don't give it away, but one candidate was at board meeting and was upset about something that was being done on a field trip and was not willing to see both sides of that.
Yeah.
And that bothers me a little bit.
And number two is the only one that actually gave a time commitment that she thought minimum. The other ones are like, I'll give as much time as I need. This one is like, I anticipate between 5 to 10 hours or more if needed. Like, she really thought about the commitment.
Well, it seems like none of them,
Right.
they're either retired or don't work, so they don't get the time. It will skew ours from 2 males to 4 females.
On Vision for the Future, the third candidate did talk about getting families, understanding that families needed to be involved in helping their students, helping students be successful.
Yeah, it sounds like she had some experience with that.
To have every, her goal is to have every student graduate and to have a plan for the future.
And to know what the parents' goals are. It does seem like anymore, the children's biggest obstacle in life is their parents.
It makes us feel good, doesn't it, as parents?
No, it doesn't, it's terrible, but look at this book sitting in front of us. The only reason that girl's got a phone in her hand is because her parents bought it for her. I mean,
And have you ever gone to a restaurant and seen every kid, the parents and every kid on the cell phone?
it's, yeah, yeah. Sometimes you have to let kids be kids. As parents, I don't think we're doing that so much. Might not be popular, but some parents are overemphasizing sports, or they're overemphasizing what they want the child to do, not necessarily what the kid wants to do. And with number three, she mentioned parents, I think, 3 times in her answer of that third question. Getting parents involved, talking to the parents, finding out what the parents' goals for their kid is, and I think as much as anything, it's helping parents. She seemed to have that vision.
Educating the parents to help the kids.
Right,
as well.
she seemed to have that vision.
Do you want to write our rankings and give it to Megan and have her, or how do we want to do this?
We could draw them out of a hat and end up with a good one if it's, right. Maybe that's not appropriate either.
Whole lot of that.
accept that, but we can kind of go from there.
Don't back off, push your idea.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, if, I don't know. Shall we rank them and give them to Megan?
Look, I even have a sheet, I can write numbers.
Oh, I was just gonna put them on the top of my question. Just put a 1, 2, or 3.
Gosh, this is so hard.
This is,
I put it on here, I think everybody else is. She's probably that one in the class that didn't turn in her things till the bell rang. Okay, here's my thing.
I have to think. They are all very good.
But now we know Susie ranks us all by stereotypical classroom personalities, so now I'm curious.
I could probably tell what kind of kid. I know you were a troublemaker. She was just sweet, innocent, never did anything wrong. I know that for a fact because she's in the class. Huh?
Check my,
No, I just know you.
you'll notice I didn't spend very much time in the principal's office.
You thought it had all been sealed, didn't you?
What's that?
You thought your record had all been sealed, didn't you?
They're still
Okay,
there.
look for it.
Right in the face.
If you like my criminal record, you gotta find it.
99 years.
I remember at elementary school, Mr. Savage was the principal and I at least get tickets for behavioral
Yep.
issues. And I had, I think at the time it was, you had 3 within a 9-week period, you got the visit for a physical readjustment. And I had 2 and he brought me in, he goes, see that paddle right there? That's for number 3. I'm like, hey,
I just remember you walking into the office to get something and you say, "Here, I need a
But
witness."
it's,
Paddle somebody and you their teacher.
Really?
But you know what? Those kids need to do it again.
that's amazing.
that was a clear expectation right there. I was like, yep, I'm
So
good.
you were there with the days of paddling, huh?
What's that?
You were there with the days of Mr. Savage paddling,
It went away shortly, but
because I remember having to witness it. You had to have a teacher witness it.
Our grade school principal gave candy bars and pop when he'd go to his office. I was a very obese child.
well, I might have been there more often if they did that.
I bet Megan and Pat were the teacher Pat county kids. Am I
Maybe.
correct?
Maybe.
See, I
Not really.
no.
See, I'm very perplexed when my children get sent to the office. I'm very perplexed.
I remember we used to buy pizzas when we would finish our application tables. And we get to use
But every kid knew their multiplication when they left 3rd grade, huh? Now?
How much is 1/8 of a pizza? That's like,
But I had songs they had, remember the songs we had to sing?
Oh, you had it on repeat all the time on my
that's just like,
But at
like you go back
least
for
they
4, so that's 1 pizza.
Yeah. And they had little tunes.
I know, I still remember.
So, we have 2 candidates that have 3 number 1s, but one has 3 2s after that ranking. So, that's
Just the lowest score wins, right?
yes.
So you can tell us who
We
they
were just
are.
saying it was really close.
Oh, okay.
That's what we were trying to say, it's close.
Well, that just goes to show just how close.
So are we calling them
decision.
candidate 1, 2, and 3 in the order they interviewed?
We can, yeah.
But actually, the sad part is, it's not the sad part, it's actually neat, in the way they're listed in here, it's 1, 2, and 3 on the interview.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just
We just
so,
made it easy.
just so we know.
And then all 3
Are you
sessions.
playing the piano?
Huh?
You're playing the
No,
Damn, I didn't
I
know the expect.
had to cut my fingernails today.
But
How's your husband's crops?
I didn't expect to be so.
We had a little bit of damage by our house, but we were,
Usually when I talk to people, it's like, all right,
one side one way and one side the other way.
Racing part we just did.
And we were on campus, so.
You could have flipped them over, I could have wrote somewhere on the back, I don't know, it's all out.
She's so funny.
Your third one.
Okay,
I could see on my window.
number 3.
Wait,
Is it shows?
Is she, you
In,
did,
in.
I'm sorry, I was
order.
listening, can you do it again? Candidate number 3 had the most votes, and which one had the second to the most?
I didn't see what was up. What was 2?
Do you want me to call and see if she will accept? If that's the,
I guess the question is, are we all right, number 3?
Yeah. Is there anybody object to that? Have a problem with that?
Just that.
Think they can't work with that?
migrant status.
they
Oh.
said no.
Oh,
And so will this person be sworn in next Monday?
So do we just say that? Unless number 3 backs out, or if number 3 backs out, then number 2?
Yep.
Number 2 backs out, then number 1? Okay.
Do we have to vote, make an open vote, or can we just do a consensus?
You can do the official vote on Monday, and then we'll go right into a vote.
so after we know
Because
that
someone
they're
will
gonna
have,
take it.
someone will have to make a motion to appoint.
So someone can make a motion to appoint this person.
Or you could do it tonight.
Can we do it in,
I say,
Do it, Judge.
I say we do it on a board meeting and make sure that's what people can.
but if we do it tonight, then we can swear that person in.
Swear that person in.
Can't you do it at the same time?
Yeah, we could still do it on midnight.
Okay,
I mean, if we have to do that, I'm fine with that, but I mean,
I don't care.
if, I just thought maybe get an opportunity to make sure that they're, taking care of it.
Yeah.
And you
So
will
we're saying
contact them.
consensus tonight, vote on Monday?
And then just swing it right afterward.
Okay, good with that.
All right, we will,
Continue with policies.
then we'll, all right, finish the policy discussion.
All right, I'll try to ramble quickly. All right, suspected abuse of a child reporting requirement, GBNABJHFE. I don't know why it says centralized child abuse reporting system or 2A, and then it gets rid of designee or the local law, gets rid of a designee or the local, part of law enforcement agency. And then it says pursuant to RS 419B.015, and it's got that crossed out. I don't know why we would get rid of the statutory reference, specifically because the statutory reference says it has to be the centralized child abuse reporting system or local law enforcement. So it gets rid of local, and it gets rid of the statute that mandates it be to local law enforcement. So I don't know why it would get rid of specifically the statutory requirement language. Same thing on the second page of it. Local is crossed out again. Local should be there for the statute. So unless there is a new House or Senate bill that gets rid of local, that should still be there. But when you look at the legal references on the bottom, it doesn't reference a House bill or a Senate bill. It references an OAR. I did not read the OAR, but the OAR can't trump the statute. So I don't know why it's getting rid of local and the statute when the statute requires local. GBNABJHFEAR1, exact same thing going on with that one. All right, criminal records checks and fingerprinting, GCDA. Nope, not that one. I picked it up with the wrong one. GCDA, GDDA, criminal records checks and fingerprinting. This one actually kind of brought up a question that a parent expressed to me the other night is, why don't we have criminal record checks ongoing for teachers? Why don't we have testing ongoing for teachers as part of a drug education program. And I said, I don't know, never even thought about it.
We used to have a background check every 2 years, wasn't it?
And yeah, and now it's basically, because they do it, they run away and get their license, but they also, it's required in the ORS is that if there's any sort of, legal or anything like that, you have to make the district aware. But they just don't have a timeline on it, it's not every year, it's.
But when you renew your license, you have to answer those questions, like, can you do the driving,
Okay.
and
And
that's
I
what
don't
we-
know,
But does it get checked?
Yeah.
I don't know. But there was a
We
teacher in
used to-
My
Ontario.
understanding was
The only reason why I
LifeScan
know these two things.
runs reports regularly.
There was a teacher in Ontario who
Okay.
didn't report something, but no, they lost their license. I can't remember who it was.
Okay, so there is a program that's checking.
I thought the
under-
LifeScan, like, kind of, that was my understanding.
Yeah.
Works, I just know that it
And I-
says that there's no break in their license
Yeah.
and working at a district.
I don't know if that's something we want to discuss at some point, maybe tonight's not the time to have a full debate on it, but it's just something a parent brought up and then we happen to be reviewing these, so.
I've heard the same thing, if kids are getting drug tested so frequently with extracurriculars.
Teachers have never been done
Yeah.
this. To me, it's not.
The only staff member that does get drug tested, obviously, is our bus drivers, for the CDLs, and that's it. They get a
How,
random
what is
poll.
that?
I think it's once every
It's quarterly
quarterly, yeah.
and it's a random.
And do we have complaints about people thinking any teachers are on some sort of drug? I mean, obviously not the angry parent who says, are these teachers on drugs, but do we get complaints about it at all?
Haven't had teachers, but maybe.
And so if a parent complains, do you,
What's that?
if somebody complains, do you do a drug test on them? Or?
As the school district, unless, and right now, the only staff members that can do a drug test on if there's a complaint or some sort of cause to do that are our bus drivers. And unless you have some sort of, they'd have to be, because obviously we're not trained, right? We can't say, oh, you're on info, you need to go test. The basic question is, as a board, do we want to say, do we want to ensure student safety? And that's part of it, is if you do think a staff member is in the right
What about
mind.
coaches who
Just-
drive vans with kids?
And that's what I'm saying, and so, but I would say that as a board, that's something we want to really look at, because, and it can't be just the angry parent, oh, kids say all the time, you know how that comes up all the time, is, if there's behavior that we see that is, like I said, that could put the student safety in jeopardy, that's an issue.
For the most part, I think you hire employees that you can trust, and you don't want to show them any reason why we don't trust you. And so that's the issue. If it was something that we could see was becoming a problem, then maybe it makes sense. If we're getting complaints, if performance levels were tapering off, then we could say, all right, there's a reason for this. But without a reason, do we want to go there? Right?
But I think coaches who are running vans for the kids are not.
And that makes sense.
Well, that would be your type 20 license under that point, so you're a bus driver.
But yeah, I mean, I know the bus driver, that's pretty well, just, stuff like that, I think it's just employees in general. I think
But, like, if we suspect a teacher under TSPC's ethical educator, then that is something that they're supposed to already do anyway.
Yeah. The problem is suspect, right? And then without, it's like a drug test again. Again, they're trained, we're not trained, and then doesn't have a field day with me. We're right now. Oh, what was your training? How did you?
That was a nice diagnosis test.
Exactly, yeah.
Perfect.
I highly doubt people are keeping like flasks in their file
Oh, I know
cabinets.
something.
Well, anymore, how about that?
Well, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
All right, well, so maybe that's something that we can think about, but I don't know if that's where we go.
But if we don't have it in policy, then we can't touch it, and so, you know.
Right.
It can actually be a drug problem.
Well,
Yeah,
if you put it in policy, then you're kind of.
Well, I'm just thinking of like the coaches and
Right.
driving.
But wouldn't that fall under like working with like safe working conditions too, like if you're.
Well, maybe we should say something to the effect of anyone who transports children.
What kind of?
Anyone who transports children are subject to random drug testing. And so, one of my employees has a random drug testing policy, and they randomly drug test X amount of employees a month. I don't think we need to be drug testing at 400 teachers a month, but maybe those who are driving students. But then it's also, if you're suspected of it, and you show up and you have a teacher, or you have a student who walks into the principal's office, and says, teacher reeks of alcohol. You know, that could be a problem.
It's happened.
It sure has. Sure has, but I don't know if we want a mass blanket drug testing policy.
I do not want to make negotiations take longer than they already are.
You have a point there.
You do have a point there.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's something that's come up, so I think it's something we have to
Okay.
think about what appropriate language might be.
Yeah.
But I don't know the district that drug tests their teachers, just.
I don't either, I don't know if that's included.
Because I mean, I have friends that teach in other states, and they don't take drug tests either, so.
And I don't think it should be a mass blanket teacher drug testing.
Well, I mean.
The teacher
Well,
gets
you
it
do,
either
you know,
way.
you
talk
don't
about
do
it.
it hard. You should just start thinking about that.
That's, you may as well.
You know, you know what's my thought. Thanks for the idea, Dustin.
You know, say, for breast milk.
Just on Saturday
Okay.
night. Okay, move on.
Okay, use of restraint or seclusion, JGAB. Number 5 says, it gives the prohibited restraints. Number 5 is any restraint that involves the intentional or non-incidental use of a solid object, including a wall or the floor, to impede a student's movement unless a restraint is necessary to prevent imminent life-threatening injury or to gain control of a weapon. That got me to thinking, my personal opinion is that's not really appropriate, life-threatening injury. Well, if you have a student who's about to throw a punch at another student, that's not likely a life-threatening injury that's going to be sustained. And so I think that is way, way, way too restrictive. And so I looked it up. ORS 339.291 allows restraint if there's about to be substantial bodily injury. So I think that this imminent life-threatening injury is too restrictive to our teachers. If somebody is throwing a punch,
Another child.
the teacher should have the ability to impede a student's movement. So I just think section 5 in JGAB is too restrictive.
That's one I
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, the statute allows a less restrictive language there, so.
But that's restraint, what they say is in between them, but unless there's substantial, what was it, ORS, like substantial bodily injury, what is substantial? And so
Well-
that's the problem, just because a kid is throwing a punch, that doesn't mean you get to restrain them. That may not be a substantial, like, a kindergarten kid punching another, doesn't mean I get to grab the kid and, you know, I mean, that's what they say is, the only reason to touch a kid is if you can identify substantial bodily injury, and so I think that's why they put that in there, but I just,
So, let me ask
Yeah.
this, what are you gonna do if a kid get on the bike?
and
You have to
that's part of
grab
the
one
issue
and
is
pull
that,
them away.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, I mean, he's bored, but I guarantee you that if a child gets seriously hurt in a fight like that, it doesn't get stopped. It's just paid that bill.
Oh, for sure.
and so, that's all the training says, like, right, unless, you know, obviously, little kids don't have to grab a kid, take them down, and use their holds, you know. High school is vastly different, but also at high school, there's also an issue, like, do we want our adults jumping and, you know, trying to bring up two boys and get substantially hurt as well? And if you put that clause in there, they have to. So,
Well, no, they don't have to. This is prohibited restraint. And so it's saying teachers teachers cannot do this, not they must get in the way of a fight.
And then have to write it.
Yeah.
Right, but, and so I mean, realistically, I think it would be better to have the language follow the statute unless a restraint is necessary to prevent imminent substantial bodily injury or to gain control of a weapon. Because life-threatening injury, really, we're gonna let a fight get to the point we think it's life-threatening?
But, and we will, like, I mean, like, if a kid, and you know this, right? If they hop that fence and they're in the highway, like, that is something we need to restrain them.
Sure.
Because that's a serious injury, possibly,
Right.
and so, but that's why I'm good with that.
Right, yeah, I just don't think we should preclude our teachers from being able to step in if they think a kid's about to be injured, not necessarily killed.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
that was one thing that was concerning. The reason why it was like we had called the word, we had young help with kids running around the playground and doing things, and I'm like, okay, when does this stop? And so, yeah, that was my question. Running from here to here, and trying to figure it out.
So, and I think as long as you use that as your measure, like,
Right.
in an environment where injury is.
Yeah, statute allows it, so, and that is the statute specifically referenced to in the footnotes, so.
Did you get that note on it?
I shouldn't say that so definitively, I might have looked that one up on my own. Yeah, it is in the footnotes, so, it's one they reference, and I think we can ease up on that a little bit.
We're totally good with that.
Parent perspective on this next one, use of restraint or seclusion, JGAB-AR. Number,
Oh, adopt that.
yeah. If restraint or seclusion continues for more than 30 minutes, school staff will attempt to immediately notify parents or guardians verbally or electronically. I think 30 minutes is too long.
To restrain the child.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if the child is violently swinging at people and it's continued restraint, but I think the parents should be notified immediately. Why let that go on for 30 minutes before somebody tries to notify the parents to get, if nothing else, maybe the parents are the only person who can calm this kid down. Let's get the parents there on site immediately. Why wait 30 minutes?
There's a functional part of that as well,
Okay,
right? Because I know that's the first thing we do, right, when that would occur. But I agree, if you're having to restrain, physically restrain a kid, your seclusion is for a 30-minute, right? I don't have a minute restriction, right? I mean, it just sounds like a, you know, and the kids do this too.
sure.
Hey, you're okay, we can start interact, also it goes like this again, right? And so, I don't know, it's really difficult. I don't know why that 30 minutes is the regulation in there, but I do know that it's sometimes very difficult. You're trying to think you're de-escalating the kid, you're not de-escalating, as you know, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we're back up again. And so, anyway, so I don't know why the 30 minutes is for me, you know, been in that situation. I think 30 minutes is pretty typical in there when you're still in the middle of things. So,
Okay, I guess with that language in there, there's more kind of, they're gonna have to wait 30 minutes, if that's the language in that? Or
Well,
would it be,
no, there's just no requirement that if it continues for less than 30 minutes, that the parent be immediately notified. I think if any restraint happens, if it's for 2 minutes, the parent should be immediately notified. Right, and so I just think that if restraint or seclusion occurs, school staff will attempt to immediately notify the parents. I mean, I guess there's the thought of the teacher, I don't know when a teacher would be alone and have to restrain a child alone. There should be somebody else within a minute or two, but there should be immediacy. And immediate is defined, means to act as soon as possible without undue delay. And so if we leave it as if restraint or seclusion occurs, school staff will attempt to immediately, they fit into that immediately definition, fail-safe of as soon as possible.
I'm just gonna say from being in the classroom, that sometimes you have multiple bodies trying to restrain and seclude a student, and there's sometimes the body's able to. So that's why it's made.
Well, but that's the nice thing about immediate. act as soon as possible.
Yeah.
If it's not possible, you don't have to do it right that second. But I think that's already, we don't need to have that 30 minutes in there, because technically they could wait 24 hours to notify parents if it's a 29-minute restraint.
So what's your recommendation on that?
I would just have it say,
Just take the time out and just say don't attempt to immediately.
yeah, if restraint or seclusion occurs, school staff will attempt to immediately notify parents.
So I think that's what we do.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's the practice.
Just to reflect that in policy, so it supports it.
Right. Okay, physical examinations of students, JHCA. Sorry, that's the delete one.
They deleted those and then combined JHCA and JHCB.
Okay, so that's in the immunization of school sports participation. Okay, so it says students participating in extracurricular sports in grades 7 through 12. This is in the combined one. Is required to submit to an appropriate school sports pre-participation examination prior to their initial participation in a related district program. And I didn't notice it saying, okay, it does, they do have to do it every 2 years. Why call it a pre-participation examination when the statute still calls it a physical? Okay, maybe that's more of a question than anything. In the statute, it references that the state school board is going to create an OAR that will mandate the form that's to be used, and maybe the form, they're calling it a pre-participation examination? Okay, because the statute calls it one thing, but apparently the OAR calls it something else, so.
The only thing about that was the grade 7 through 12, because there are exceptions, aren't there, for 6th grade sports where they still need the physical?
I don't know about the 6th grade sports portion of it. I
There's
just the high
tennis,
school.
yeah, because I know tennis, cross country, and wrestling are also through the school, and I believe they have to have a physical as well, but that's in 6th grade. So, I don't know if that needs change.
Since it's a district policy, it probably should, shouldn't it?
And I don't think, we don't have any 6th grade we don't have 6th grade do tennis or track or anything here, right?
Yeah,
Sixth
they
grade
do
does
have
tennis.
So then if they have to have it, then we should change it to reflect that.
I'm pretty sure Maddie had to have a physical to do tennis.
Yeah, I would assume she would have.
I'm pretty sure she did. But yeah, so maybe the policy should say that. And with that, I'm done. See the floor.
Well, you kept that under kind of an hour worth of work. You got all your work with that?
Did I do what?
Usually this thing's lengthy for you guys.
This might last a
You
while.
went over the hour by 7 minutes, and we can charge another 4.
Yeah, she's going to get a bill.
Yeah.
Dustin, we appreciate you as a board member.
It was fun.
Oh, yes, we have some budget committee openings.
We will now have 3 vacancies.
Oh, because Jasmine had to do it.
Number 3.
So our policy says that we will, in July, notify the public of how many vacancies, and then we'll start accepting applications, and then
Who is, can you
August.
say who's going on?
Marlon Floor, Michael Hartley, and then
Sorry, those are 3 who have applied.
That are
the
going
other
on?
we're moving so that we need to open up.
Okay, I was gonna say, wait a
But
minute,
they
I
can
thought they were on, I
reapply,
heard
the first
wrong.
2 can reapply.
Yes,
And we will contact them.
yeah.
Okay.
So if you, on Monday, if you just want to announce it to the public, and then
There are
you guys can decide when to close the applications, so you can review in August for the policy. I mean, we can always, if there's no one, or we want to keep it open, we
Is there anything else that we want to discuss?
Well, looking at the suspected child abuse reporting requirements, JHFE, I did notice that it says, the district shall make available each school year the training described above, which is the mandatory reporting, identification of abuse, prevention, obligations, reporting child abuse. It would be available to contractors, agents, volunteers, and parents and legal guardians of students attending district-operated schools. I guess I didn't know we did that.
So we have safe school training, and you guys have gone through, or you guys have that available to you as well, and all staff. I don't think we've made it available to volunteers and contractors and those things. We actually had some questions, like for your background with contractors and employees, and so, but that's not something that we've made available. We can, which is super easy, but we just haven't.
So I know that like the Child Welfare in Ontario, if you reach out to them and ask them to come over and do like a child abuse, mandatory reporter and abuse training, they have like a short video where they talk about it. That would be good parent outreach, I feel like.
Is that even something that can go out in the text messages, a link to?
So the safe school videos, right, those are through PACE and have to do that license only.
Okay.
And, I mean, I guess you could, I don't know how, if they might, because once you click the video, you kind of keep going through it.
Gotcha, okay.
So, and it might be something that's saying based on policy ORS, that's something that's available, can be available, so.
I wonder if it's a video, we can just, can we have it on our website?
Probably
I mean,
any
you can.
YouTube videos.
Necessarily make sure they watched it, but if you had volunteers come in, they have to sit in the office and watch it for 5 minutes before they go to volunteers or whatever.
I bet PACE would not be opposed to creating a link to their video, so anybody could watch how to report child abuse.
Yeah.
Seems like a good thing that they would.
I don't know why they would object.
Right.
I would think.
I agree with that. That's something available.
Yeah.
I was always confused. Sometimes I report it to my principal, sometimes I report it to the SRO, and then the principal would get mad that I didn't tell him, who to report it to sometimes.
Right.
And we do have a policy in there, is that, you have to fill out the form every time, give it to your administrator.
Oh.
But the employee has to make the report.
To either children's services or the police.
The police would be the only other ones, used to be like, if you go to your principal, they have to report you with a counselor, they will assist you, but the employee has to, because they are the
But it's either or,
primary person. Yeah.
children's services or
Yeah,
the
or you
police.
could give it to.
You can go law enforcement PHS, because we cross-report.
Yeah.
Last few times I've called PHS, to get a recording. It really bugs me. And they don't call me back either.
So the problem is, PHS, you used to be able to report it to each outlet, you could report it to an outlet within your area, like Ontario for us. Oh, we went away with that, now we have to report it to the main dispatch. Well,
In Portland, the child is here.
yeah.
They
See,
staff
And they
it,
distribute it down.
no, they staff it,
Yes.
and if it's within their realm, then they send it over.
That's so.
Otherwise, it just stays
But
there.
if we reported it to the SRO,
Yeah, so if you report it, then we'll shift the report to PHS.
but he can investigate it.
Yeah, we can go ahead and it's easier for us.
And I, for our legal, if it's like elder abuse or child abuse, we have to call PHS, that's the requirement in the lawyer rules. But then, I think I've called 2 times now, but they haven't called me back. And that really bothers me.
That's frustrating.
You'll get through faster if you say you're a mandatory reporter and use that button. It's like within minutes.
Really?
Well, it's scary because they put your license on the line. You're like, nobody's even called me back, I'm trying to do my due diligence here, right? And then that's your,
Right.
that's, some teachers here, maybe 4 hours kind of trying to get through, and it's just like, it's scary.
Yeah.
I know this is totally not, on the calendar, that's on the back of the handbook we got from Luke. Isn't there 1 week that there's 5 days?
Yeah, we changed that.
But I just don't see it on here unless I.
No, so what happened was, it was supposed to be October 18th is what our initial, what we were initially going to do that. However, the game was supposed to be here, which was homecoming week, and that's why we did a 5-day, because we know that Fridays, we were unable to, well, the game had scheduled, it turned out that we had to get better. And then, so then there was no other opportunity in the schedule, so I said, well, we're not gonna make a 5-day week just to make a 5-day week. And so we took that off, and we're good on hours and everything.
Do you know when homecoming is?
Yes, it's actually, I think it's in September.
I just got a whole schedule.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I wanted to say it's a September date in there. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can leave that to you.
Okay, all right. Not that I have a high schooler, but you know.
Yeah.
I got one for 1 more year,
I know,
and then a couple years after that.
I had a few years.
Okay, is there anything else at this work session? Hearing nothing else, this meeting is adjourned, and we will see you on Monday.
So Megan, I'll get you that.
Dusty, Bobby's gonna report on the drug program.
Oh, nice.
So, cause I keep saying, well, how'd you go?
Right.
Was it good? Was you gonna go for something else? What's up?
So close.
I know you're at the door.
Right.
Yeah.
You're always hitting that.
We don't want to speech. And I was like, we don't have any.
Impressive.